it was your team that would win the next round. Walk us through what you were telling your team each time you would call those timeouts, because it felt like it was such a pivotal part in keeping the team in control.
Yeah, honestly, we would just John's flowing with the IGLing today. Jordan's doing an incredible job helping out with. He's got a lot of good ideas. So a lot of the time we time out, and I actually basically had a call for the next round. I was like, hey, I like what we're saying in the freeze time. This is sweet. I think after we do this and it works, let's rip this the next round. So they're making it easy for me today so far.
Happy face over here from Coach Kaplan. Best of luck on map number 2.
Thank you.
Sentinels start off strong with a 13-9 win on Loud's pick of Sunset, and now they are one step closer to walking away as the kickoff champs. This is going to be, a very fascinating BO5 here, guys, because I don't think that Loud... They got something cooking, surely. I have to believe that.
Honestly, I'm a little concerned with how he responded, how Kaplan did at the beginning of the evening.
Yeah.
That was easier than I thought. They're making it easy on me today. I'm like, bro, but it's still Loud.
Sawyer roll, dog.
Right? Like, easy now.
But they did look right there. I thought that they dealt with the comp that Loud was running here incredibly well, especially in that first half on the attacking side. This team was looking dominant, especially in the way that they were constantly taking A main control. Zekin getting set up for these really nice double flash with the KO and Gecko Dizzy to double satchel in, constantly opening up these rounds and just giving John so much to work with in the mid round.
And I think the dominance that they've showed on Sunset goes all the way back to the offseason. Now 9-1 on this map. They've done it in the offseason. They've done it against different teams. Now they're doing it when the stage is the biggest it's been for them up until this point. Sunset is their map.
Yeah, and they're really proving as well why that this comp is legit. That this is a comp that I think a lot
And now from Studio B in conservative Livingston County, Michigan, coming to you from the Man Cave. This is a Sunday night legal warfare or lawfare conversation. I'm your ever-present earwig, the real Tim Allen, sitting in. Tonight, our special guests, Lucas Gerhard, our accused patriot, and Mark Gerhard, Lucas's Faja. This is My Brain. And now, the man who has the plan, who herds the cats, and has it all but doesn't know where it's put, Jeremy Scott Gibbs.
Welcome to the show tonight, everybody. It's a Sunday night lawfare conversation. I'm blessed to be with Lucas and Mark Gerhards, the Gerhard men. I heard there's a couple other, at least one other brother. Maybe?
I have a brother, yes.
But Lucas, you are the accused patriot, and Mark, you're the Faja, said accused patriot. I want to dive right into the case and everything that happened with you. It's made nationwide headlines. Got some good press from a lot of good people that we're connected with. Obviously, I know you through Shane Trejo, and then Shane connected with you. Some people, Gateway Pundit picked up some stuff with Jim Hoff and Patty working over there and brought that to the attention. Before we dive fully into the case, and I want to get into all of that idea, start from finish, and really dig into that. I want to get into some of the background, family life. I want to get into some of your dad's takes on that, because he was one of your biggest advocates in there. We had a great conversation during dinner tonight, and so I want to flesh out a lot of this for a lot of people, because I know that there isn't always a. Sometimes when you go on, I know you've went on a couple different interviews. A lot of times interviews tend to be short form. Mm-hmm. And you're quick in, quick out, and you don't get the full story. And I want to flesh out the humanity and the toll that this type of thing takes on you, because you can count the money, you can count the days, of being away from family and having to deal with trials and that lawfare. But where's the heart and how you overcome that? Because there's a lot of people that are facing it that aren't getting the national headlines. And so I want to tap into that. Before we do that, let's give our disclaimer tonight. Tim, are you ready with the disclaimer, my friend?
Yes, give me that wall feed.
Yes, if my
feed me that wall feed.
Trackball.
Welcome, everyone. This is My Brain. Notice this podcast is mostly raw. Like, Tuesday I say stuff about being raw. I'm going to not say that
refrain.
on Sunday. I'll refrain on Sunday. It is unfiltered and completely politically incorrect. We say Merry Christmas from Christ. And the Pledge of Allegiance, especially the part about the one nation under God. We thank our troops, and I understand there is Semper
Hoorah.
Thank you, Mark.
Marine at the table. Thank you very much for your service. We only recognize two genders. As adults, we enjoy adult beverages.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Clinky clink.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Luke's getting here with his water.
Oh, okay.
Clink.
Tap. Yes. Slip. Yep. As adults, those beverages are wine tonight for me as well.
Yeah. Sure, over there in your booth, so you don't get to
I'm sharing.
clink with us, but that's
sharing with the guests.
We feel it in spirit.
Yes, we cuss. We do not curse nor swear. I pledge. I do not swear. You curse your children.
Yes.
We love Jesus and hate religious hypocrites. If any of this offends you, you know who you are.
And you have been warned, and you can leave.
And you can leave. You've been warned, and you can leave. And you came in late, and you're offended.
Yeah.
Please refer back to the beginning of the show.
You leave us a stupid comment about how you don't like you don't like something, and I go,
Did you see the open? Tim
literally
did
a
the
disclaimer. You were warned.
Any disclaimers our patriots need to give to us before they proceed, usually for legal protection.
And knowing that Lucas and Mark have both been on Ricada Law, we're quite mild compared to There's a reason he's mostly on at midnight.
He's drinking the whole show.
Oh my goodness. And he's very spicy. I'll leave it at that. Leave it at that. Yes, graphic on the wall. Thank you, sir. Let's dive into it. let's give me the background, and then Lucas, I want you to give me the background. What's going on? Okay, you're graduated from school. You're headed off to college. I want to start there and walk us through real quick the scenario. What happened to you? And Mark, if you feel you want to if you from your side you want to clarify. So let's get that first. Okay. That idea. You shared part of that when you were here last time, but there was a whole group of guys. So I really wanted to sit down with you kind of one-on-one, but Dad's going to help flesh it out. You're heading off to college. You're a marksman. You like to shoot guns, and go.
Well, it's funny. I mean, having to flesh that out, I mean, I really was on my own for the most part. I didn't really communicate. After I left for high school, I just decided to do my own thing. So I became very independent. I had just become an Eagle Scout at that point too. And I learned a lot of leadership skills from them. And of course, like you said, shooting skills, just in general. I had basically created a new,
drawing skills, nunchuck skills.
I had new ability for myself to basically just lead and not really care what people thought. So when I started college, I just was my own person, and I had my beliefs. I supported our president, and I was openly conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I was not an activist. I really wasn't.
But you were independent.
I was
strong independent.
I wasn't. I was at the time. I was a conservative, but I was independent, as in. Like,
I mean, personally independent,
yes.
Not a declared party.
Right.
Dynamic.
And so I never went out of my way to kind of make my opinion known.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I was confronted on it or asked my opinion, I would definitely say it. I never hid it.
And that's actually the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to force anything, but if you ask me, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And so I could tell examples and stories here if you want about college or.
No, let's get. So you're out there. You're forging ahead. You're making your own way in the world. And what were you going to college for? Let's start there.
Criminal justice law enforcement.
Okay.
That's ironic.
I was a sheriff's cadet sergeant at the time with my local sheriff's office, and I was going into a law enforcement career.
So you're going to Lake Superior State.
Yes.
And obviously they have a criminal justice program there.
Yeah, supposedly one of the most well-known in the state. Supposedly one of the best too, but.
So you walk onto campus first day.
Yeah.
When did this photo on Snapchat, when did this come to the forefront?
Well,
let me see. I got to get to the right one. That's you over there.
Yeah, that's
this one.
That doesn't come around for about 2 years.
So you're
about 3 years maybe.
So you're at college this whole time.
So yeah, I started Lake Superior State in August of 2017.
Okay.
And that picture was taken in August of 2019.
Okay, so you're there.
The picture on the right, the
Yes.
one with the firearm.
with the AR.
Yes.
Okay.
Taking this
Yeah.
bad boy up. This ought to make snowflakes melt.
No, wait. That was in Snapchat, so it was in color, and somebody black and whited it for
That was
this compilation.
Yeah, that's a photograph of a printout.
Yeah, of black and white.
But
printout,
the photograph is a photograph
Yeah.
of a picture of a phone.
Wait, wait.
Did we break the fifth wall?
Yeah, the fifth wall is broken.
Yeah, no, I mean that's their evidentiary photo was actually a picture of a picture on a phone.
Yeah.
So
Because-
you're there for 2 years before anything comes out,
Right,
and you decide to go back for a third semester or third year.
fifth semester, yeah.
Yeah, your third year,
Hmm.
and you decide I'm going to take my AR. I'm going for criminal justice. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And that is an M16 looking AR set up
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait, here's my question. Let's present, having never heard the story, the photograph has this phrase over the top of it. It's kind of small in this picture.
Mhm.
Read exactly what that said and give us the context of the season in which that was written.
Well, it was actually written in the summer, but
Okay.
so it says taking this bad boy up. The context of that statement alone should.
Well, go ahead and read it so the
right.
audience knows what it says.
Well, I wanted to break it up, but I can
Okay.
read the whole thing first.
Just read the whole thing. For someone who was offended and read it all at once, they weren't going to break it up.
All right, taking this bad boy up. This ought to make the snowflakes melt. And by snowflakes, I mean snow.
Okay, that's what it says.
wow.
So-
kind of risque.
Yeah.
So you knew
but not
that
at all.
you knew that they would be taken that snowflakes in reference to our liberal friends.
No.
You did not.
No. I did, but I did not because that
Okay.
wasn't intended for them to see it. if you read it specifically, something I had argued in the case was that this ought to make them melt, not that it's going to.
Oh,
I didn't intend for them to see this. I didn't. Not that I care they did see it, but I did not. Like I told you just a minute ago, I didn't go out of my way to make sure they were offended. I just said that
you just posted something.
I said it would be funny if they were, but I didn't say that. I don't have a problem them seeing it at all, but I wasn't trying to show this to them.
And you posted on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Snapchat was still at that time 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then disappeared.
And then it disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was to only your
my friends.
Only your
your
friends.
Yeah.
So the people that already knew you, that knew your heart, and you're just posting it. Basically, it's an open message board.
Right.
That's going to delete in 24 hours.
Well, it's not really. I wouldn't call it open. It's a select group of people.
Correct.
Who.
But it does have a public. Can they pull from it?
No. It's to their only friends.
Only people who you say can see that.
So somebody had to.
That's why it was a picture of a phone.
Right. And if they take a snap or a screenshot of that,
it notifies them.
It'll notify the sender
Yeah.
that person's taking a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
So what did it end up being? One of your friends? How did this come out?
Had to have been.
Well, I could continue. I just want to ask you really quick. Do you want to go into what happened before this? Because there was a lot of shit that happened at the school that caused this to happen in the first place.
Yes.
Tell us about
finish.
Okay.
Mean Girls.
Right.
I want to hear about the Mean Girls.
Yeah. How did this come out? And then we'll go back to that.
Okay. Well. Okay. So
if it's only to your friends, it's not Snapchat. It's going to disappear in 24 hours.
So what happened was, it's really hard to even explain without getting into their detail. Essentially, somebody else who I had a permission to see that had somebody who was blocked, in other words, prohibited from seeing that, take a picture of that picture. So the picture is of the person who I blocked. She took the picture and then reported it.
Right.
As if she was threatened, even though I specifically prohibited her from seeing it.
So you blocked this particular person.
Yes.
And then they somehow get around.
Her friend was still my friend on the platform. I hadn't identified her friend as a spy yet.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of espionage going on in this.
Right.
The whole thing was a big conspiracy. It really was, and the prosecutor got on my ass about that.
So let's dive into that. Let's go back and lead us up to this, because this picture to me is innocuous. You're
go back
kind of an inside joke. You're kind of messing around a little bit. It's not a.
Well, I can explain the joke too if you want right now.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes,
all right. So, like I was saying, even just the wording itself should have given my friends context that this was a joke. I don't talk like that. I don't use slang very much. I don't think I've ever used bad boy in any other term in my entire life. In fact, the word snowflake itself, I know I'd only ever referenced that word one other time in my whole life. So anyway, the wording it should have been the clue. And then also, this ought to make the snowflakes melt. That was referring to people who were sensitive.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it was a political. It was 2019. Trump, invented that term, and around.
I mean,
that
you
time.
do realize you're not allowed to make fun of leftist retards.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure you know that now.
Yeah.
They're too sensitive to handle memes.
Libtards.
It's libtards like you that ruin this country.
I have that one.
Hit it.
Wait. Oh shoot, where is it at?
I don't know. Your button's not working.
Oh no, it's just.
Okay, I don't have time for this. Continue.
And then I said, and
it'll jump in randomly.
Oh, and then I said A, and that was a nudge at the Canadians because it's in the UP.
Here it is.
It's libtards like you that are screwing up our country.
That's the one.
Anyway,
you're poking fun at the leftist snowflakes.
And
you're poking fun at the Canadians.
And then the snowflakes as in snow. I literally meant it as snow. Right. And then they tried arguing, well, you posted that in August. There's no snow in August. Yeah, no shit. There's no snow in August. But I'm not gonna take the rifle up there and then leave and then take it back immediately after. It's gonna snow. I meant that literally. Like
you're in the UP.
Yeah,
it's gonna snow.
Right. Yeah. So
the rest
and they were gonna.
Well, in a point of clarity on this too. So I want to say woman, but she's a biological woman.
Don't misgender. Don't misgender.
Oh,
she's just a fat cunt.
The person.
So there was a they.
She's a she beast. She's a she beast.
So
the she beast who reported this wasn't. Of course, she was blocked specifically by Lucas, and you can get into that.
Yeah.
his friends group, the people that were actually seeing this, no one reported it, and there were.
Oh yeah. I had a Chippewa County deputy on my friends list who didn't seem to give a shit.
No problem with it.
Yeah.
So you got law enforcement officers are like, well, it's got to go.
Didn't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
As a threat. So law enforcement doesn't see it as a threat.
I
and
forgot
then
about
a
that. That's
complaint.
funny.
Yeah.
That's great. So
Wow.
her pronouns, she's an aggressive.
Her picture's
He,
probably
she.
on
Oh yeah,
Google too.
she's up there
Yeah,
somewhere.
you
Okay.
could probably
So
find her.
let's
So her
just throw this
pronouns
out
are
there.
she and
Throw the names
beast.
out.
Okay.
Yeah. Her name's Lauren Bonds, by the way, in case anybody was curious.
Well, it's in the open record, correct?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
believe so,
Lauren
yeah.
Bonds and Haley Schuster was the actual recipient that
so
showed her.
Just for my own clarification, because it's going around, Laura is a biological. Lauren is a
Yeah.
biological female.
I don't know.
Apparently so.
She's some fucking fat ass cunt. I don't know.
We didn't have,
We
we
might
didn't
have
have
to,
any
yeah.
Tell us what you
diagnostic
Was that
proof.
in, was
Really
that in the
think about
public
her.
record? Was that in the
Hmm?
transcript of the courts?
The
The exact phrase you just used. I just want to make sure. We've never had anything controversial come out of the show,
wish
so I don't
I
know if
should
we
have
wanna-
brought the transcript of her testimony.
Oh wow.
So there was an incident later on down the line.
Okay.
Mhm.
She was, and we can get into this too, but the preliminary hearing, that she was asked why she reported this, and she said, "Well, it was this big black gun, and I was scared, and I'd never seen anything like it before."
Oh,
Really?
stop.
And when-
Really?
when-
Yeah, the
You're
most,
at
the
a-
most
you're at
a-
you're at a
original,
school with criminal
typical
justice
looking-
classes.
I mean, look at the rifle itself. Look how generic it
Yeah,
looks. It's
when-
the most
when
generic.
Lucas's
like,
Lucas's attorney at the time got up and says, "Wait a minute, this is the most popular sporting rifle in the United States of America," and
Right.
she's like, "Well, I never saw it. It was scary, and it had this thing on the end." And he
That's literally the setup for everybody who went to Vietnam.
exactly.
Oh,
she-
look.
Right.
well, it's looking for like the A2 version, but yeah, close
Yeah.
enough. Close enough. Yeah. It's, I mean, it's
From that grainy picture right there, that's literally you would go, okay, is that a prop for Full Metal Jacket? What's the deal?
For
For
real,
real.
yeah,
You
it
know?
was bad. So fast forward to going through with the trial and everything as is going forward. She appears out of nowhere. Lucas has a friend send him a pic that she posts. I don't know if it was on Instagram.
yeah,
or on
I had my
Snapchat,
own little spy.
but she's
going
holding
on.
a 12 gauge. Looks like a 12 gauge shotgun, and she's literally on campus because you can see Brady Hall, which is the dorms behind her,
And
really?
acting like she's offended that
and yeah, so a woman that was so afraid of guns, of weapons, was standing holding a shotgun with the caption, "Get
Stay strapped
stay
or get
strapped to
clapped.
get clapped." Yeah.
Clapped. Yeah. So in other
Are
words,
you kidding
I
me?
could-
No,
so
don't gloss
let me-
over that.
let me-
Don't
let me-
gloss over that.
Let's say that
No,
again.
I'm
Hold on.
not glossing over it. I want to
Yeah.
show the context more here. So I have a picture that they say that she claimed was a terroristic threat of a rifle in Oakland Township,
Yeah.
300 freaking miles away from Sault Ste. Marie,
Yeah.
laying against a bunch of packs that they claim to be body armor, by the way.
Right. Doesn't
And
matter.
so it's just sitting there in a completely different jurisdiction with a joke caption about melting snow. She claims to be threatened, and then she goes ahead and grabs a shotgun, probably loaded, honestly,
Mhm.
stands on campus holding
On campus.
holding it,
to
with-
pose for a picture.
and she posts it on Instagram, a platform where that picture is permanent, not temporary. And she puts a caption that literally says that she's gonna kill somebody if she
What was the exact phrase again?
stay strapped or get clapped.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's not threatening to kill somebody, but she's threatening to say like there is violence in her statement.
Yeah.
Which
Basically-
and it's amazing too that is that 5.56?
Yes.
Okay, so you're doing a picture of an AR with 5.56, and she's holding a 12 gauge.
Mhm.
I would pick the 5.56 because the kick recoil and all that other stuff is far less. With the
Well,
gun
her
that
center
you
of
would
mass
profile.
probably
Just the
probably ties her
hypocrisy
to the
of it
center of
is-
earth. She's like
Oh,
You're saying
right.
she's more
her
of a
feet
shotgun
is
gal.
planted into the concrete
Sure,
when she
sure.
fires that thing. It's
Sure. That
The
makes
funny
sense.
part was Ricada. So Ricada picks up on this,
Mhm.
and he puts it on his show, and he's
Yeah.
got a bazillion people watching.
Of
him.
course.
And the comments. I mean, she's a big girl. I mean, she's
And
not a
Ricada
young,
is
lib-
known-
Oh, he just
Literally,
based-
his fans.
He's a
He
merciful host.
basted
What are
it.
you talking
Oh
about?
my
He's one of the
God.
most gracious.
dude.
Forget.
Ricada's fans pay for him to fat shame them.
Nick is
Literally.
a master at that, and that he was just. It was
That's
so
the why I
funny.
never at my 325 pounds I never chime in.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's merciless. I love him. So this chick who's whacked out, right, for whatever reason, waiting to be offended, a complete hypocrite because obviously holding a gun.
A trigger case waiting to happen.
Quite triggered by your displaying your
Pun
trigger.
intended.
So what led up to this moment? We fleshed out
Yeah, what's the
this
politics
moment.
behind it?
We
I hear
fleshed out
you
the
were known.
hypocrisy.
You didn't make your opinion known, but you were known for your opinion.
So what's the 2 years leading up to this that you inadvertently shared your views and they were looking for a reason to be offended at you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here we go.
Talk about the first.
I'm going to talk about from the very beginning.
Give it to me.
So again, I get there August 2017. We're starting here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just started there as a criminal justice student, figuring that you know, coming from, you know, background with with living in a military family, I had figured law enforcement was a tight knit brotherhood type community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I kind of treated it as that, and I assumed that everybody
There's a
shared.
blue shield.
And just caveat this with Lake Superior State has approximately 2,000
Yeah,
students.
2,000 students.
There's
Okay.
more people in my high school.
Okay.
So it's a
So
very small school.
Yeah.
community. Everybody knows everybody up there.
Right.
So I figured it would be tight knit. I actually, one of the reasons I went there was because you said that it was going to be a conservative school, which again I think it was. However, with the problem that conservatives face is that conservatives have no spine and they're fucking cowards most of the time. And I'll get into that later.
There's that.
Yeah, but so there's that. The liberals, you know, they're very loud and they're very they make themselves known. So anyway, so I went up there assuming all this was going to be fine. Conservative school, law enforcement based. Anyway, about maybe a month or two into my combat deployment there, they
A month or two in country.
they there was a discussion board post, like, so I was in Criminal Justice 101, which, you know, introduction to the criminal justice field class.
Like these are handcuffs.
Well, it was most, I don't remember what the class was.
Sure.
Basically, it was just basic stuff.
Sure, of course.
And there was a question posed, like, it was all online. There was not everything online, but there was a question that we had to fill out online and basically submit it.
Right.
And this was all new. Like, I mean, this was between the pen and paper and kind of online stuff.
They're using like whiteboard software, and you're able to do assignments online and
well,
get your stuff from your
homework.
prospectus and all of that online stuff. Those who
Yeah.
have gone to college and done digital stuff are familiar with that. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I wasn't so familiar with this platform.
Okay,
So
okay.
what had happened was there was a question on there, and it was very politically motivated. It asked me, or asked everybody, what challenges do women specifically face in law enforcement? And I'm like, and I read that as like, I'm not gonna answer this fucking question. I'm gonna basically fight it and say that, because I don't like the whole. It's basically a baiting question. It's asking like, oh, like,
When did you stop beating your girlfriend?
trying to victimize women in law, like give them a victim status.
Like trying to say like, oh, women are weaker or can't do this. They're trying to bait you into that kind of answer.
Yeah, in that kind of thing. And so basically my answer was more or less like, okay, listen, if you're getting into law enforcement, it's not a place for cowards or for pussies. So if you can't fucking handle it, you stay out. Right. And I said, if you can't handle this, you're going to go back into the kitchen and be a traditional housewife if you can't handle that.
Right.
And I said that men and women should have equal standards in law enforcement. And if that's the case, men and women, there's not going to be very many women in law enforcement.
The women in law enforcement need to be badasses.
Yeah, they have to be. They have to meet
exactly.
the standards of the men, which they don't. And, we
If
see
you
that.
lower the standard, you put them at risk.
Right. And we still see a lot of that today. Actually, there's a lot of
of
problems today. I watch videos all the time.
Did you watch the girls in, was it South America? They were supposedly the SWAT team, all women SWAT team, and they couldn't get past the first obstacle.
Well, my views have advanced now. I don't think they should be in at all. But not now. That's what I believe now. But at the time,
We're following that good chauvinistic pathway.
Well, here's a pattern with this whole thing. Every single view I held before has been accelerated. So everything I say, I will say that I was this and I was that.
Right.
I am no longer those things. I'm past that. I'm further. They didn't stomp it out. They just made me like go further.
Right.
Reinforce it.
Yeah, they reinforce, just like how Eric Meltor and the Knowles had said. They basically just took everything they thought and it's like, oh, we need to double down.
Right. You proved to us that we were on the right trajectory to stand up against these things.
Right. And so basically, I made that post and just thinking like it would just go my professor. Sort of like how most of the stuff is. I didn't think that people would see it. And I don't care that they did, but it's what happened. So
you were being honest in your opinion, but you didn't expect it to be broadcast.
Right. So what ended up happening was this was actually a public discussion in the classroom, so everybody in the class could see it.
Could see all the answers.
But you had to go to extraordinary amount of length to actually see it. So you had to go back into. First of all, it was the first week of class. Basically, you had to know that this was even viewable.
Right.
I didn't know it was viewable, so somebody had to find that out. Then they had to go into it. dig through all the paragraphs of people's responses,
Right.
find mine specifically. And what they did at that point was they took a screenshot of it, they posted it to Snapchat. There's what's like a story thing for a location. So each school, you can have like public stories for the location. So anybody who goes there could see it. So whoever posted that to Lake Superior State Story. Next thing I know, I'm just playing video games in my room or something, and I get a knock on my door. Lucas, hey, what did you do? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, what you did? You just like pissed off the whole campus. The guys in my hall were like, they're like, dude, you just like pissed off everybody at Lake State. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just like sitting there in my pajamas, like, I didn't understand. So they had like started a hashtag fuck Lucas G.
Oh
and they had like the whole there was like freaking like 50 responses of people like I don't know, they're like death threats and all kinds of shit on there.
At this point, how long are you in campus?
This was like a month or two.
Month into your freshman year.
It's the syllabus opening questionnaire to a 101 course in what's called Whiteboard, which is a software that if you take a survey questionnaire for a class, it gets posted, like you said, in paragraphs where you can see everyone else's answer and compare it to your own answer. So in knowing how to use that software, somebody then screenshots that, puts it out to everyone on campus, and now you're public.
So you're labeled within
number one.
You're labeled within a month and a half, 2
months.
And again, like he said, it was 2,000 people. There's still it's not like where I go now where there's like 20,000 people or like MSU or something. There's everybody knew. It was like a high school. Everybody knew everybody.
Clicky.
Right.
So yeah.
And to add some context to this, Lucas, what he just described his post as, he was a little more eloquent back then.
Correct. I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, he basically said, from what I recall, basically, I don't have a problem with females in law enforcement, but I don't think they should lower standards to get more females in law enforcement.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably a mix between what you and me said. I have a screenshot of it. I can send it.
But it was a mild.
But it was milder than the way
you're mainstream.
You're describing it in retrospect, saying "fuck that." What I meant every word.
Yeah.
But you were not doing it in a vitriol way, trying to stir up things. You were simply expressing your opinion as per the class requirement. This questionnaire is being presented to you, and you're like, okay, well, this is my opinion. I don't have a problem with a woman being involved in law enforcement whatsoever, but if you're going to lower the standards, you put everybody's life at risk, including the women that are coming in. And if you're going to make it broad enough for other women to come in who don't meet this, it's the same way that if a 300-pound guy comes in to be a beat cop, it's not safe.
He needs his steps.
He needs they're
in a Mediterranean diet.
There are supposed to be standards.
Some paleo.
There's supposed to be standards to fit the workload, the job requirements of it. It's just that's just a bottom line.
And I was mostly pissed off too about the fact that they're even complaining about it. I don't like law enforcement, military is two places you don't have the right to fucking complain about. I mean, you do. But I guess what I'm getting at is you don't go into a career you know is going to be tough and then bitch about the toughness.
And then bitch about the toughness.
That's a very good.
That's
point.
a very good point.
Wait. You get the. When my buttons work, the ring of truth. It's coming. It'll be here shortly.
It'll be here next month.
Yeah.
We'll get it next month.
I gotta fix these stupid buttons.
Buttons. Anyway, so
to get into the inside of I do remember my reply. That'll kind of give you the kind of demeanor I had at the time. I did reply to this rambling of lunatics and these barbarians like trying to like dogpile me. So I had like 50 responses like saying, oh, you're I'm gonna kill you, where you live, all this kind of shit.
Really?
Oh yeah. So that's also kind of looking forward, my threat. And you had 50-something people on here like threatening to like kill me. Whatever. Okay. Anyway, the school didn't give a shit about that. They actually sent public safety to They sent public safety in my dorm, asked me if I wanted a duty radio, and I said no. I think I told them
a duty what? You're talking about
a duty radio, like a radio to call.
Like
just
a panic,
in case something
radio.
happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
I don't know if I should say what I said to them about if somebody comes to my door.
You haven't been unspicy up to this point.
I don't have.
You want to throw a little cayenne on
it? Can I guess? Can I guess?
Go ahead.
You say I don't need a fucking radio. I have an AR.
Well, I didn't have an AR. I did have something.
But something along those lines.
Along those lines, I did have something. I had my baton with me, and
sure,
I may or may not have pulled that out.
Tools. I don't need your radio. I can take care of it.
All right, so let's. So this sets up the whole dynamic.
Okay.
Well, no. Yes. I mean,
is there more?
Well, yes.
There's more.
I just wanted. I want to say my response to all that too. I said that to the backlash. I said that the hate, the backlash didn't bother me, but I said that if you can't take this kind of opinion, then I said law enforcement faces criticism every day, and your opinions don't bother me. That's pretty much what I said.
Okay,
that's good.
And then I moved on, and the next day I went to class. I went to the big lecture size class. Very next day, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I didn't hide in my room or anything.
But this set the tone from here on out.
Yes.
For the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward 2 years, you're starting your third year there, your fifth semester, and you post something about snowflakes, and immediately they're looking for a reason to accuse you. Looking to
But the lead up to this,
Yes,
I mean,
is there more to it?
There's a lot. There's a shitload
a
more.
rolling
Yeah.
cycle.
What's in Act 2?
So we're but we're
I'm writing your screenplay.
we're
right
basically
now, by the
we're
way.
looking at a core group of 50 or so radical feminists for the most part that were
they enrolled
keyed
in
in
the
on
same
him.
program, or are they just on the campus for other reasons?
Most of them are nursing students, right? Nursing and criminal justice.
I'm trying. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm stepping all over Lucas's toes.
No,
but
that's fine. No, we
I
got
just
time.
wanna-
We
I
got
mean,
time.
this was a classic cancel culture.
Sure.
The left,
but-
left zeroed in on him.
Now, these
because-
are all students, or when does faculty?
Well,
get
he had the
involved?
gall to respond. I'm
Okay,
killing
okay.
Lucas right now,
All right.
so I'm going to let him go.
Go ahead, Lucas. Get us to Act 2 of this.
it's just so much. There's I mean, I know it's hard to explain everything, but
No, that's why I'm trying to speed you forward. Get
Yeah.
everybody get the cliff notes on it.
So I'm trying to get the cliff notes.
And if we need to do deep dives periodically, we
Talk
can do
about
that.
your car window. Talk about the.
I'll get to it. Jesus Christ! Shut the fuck up when we talk.
All right, I'm out. I'm gonna go get another drink.
No,
Hey, don't talk to your father that way.
I'm just gonna hit each point.
All right, let's
at
hit each point.
Each event.
Let's
So,
shotgun it.
There is so many events that happen. So, and I'm not gonna go in order because I don't remember what order they happened in.
Okay.
Suffice to say that each time there was be a political event, I would say something on. So, and okay, after I had just gone to Lake State, I had added a bunch of people on my friends list at Lake Spear State, and ever since I did that, I had to repeatedly weed them out of my friends list because those people were all spies essentially. Almost every single one of them.
Okay.
I had good friends there, but I didn't want to unjustly remove people from my friend group if I didn't actually have evidence that they were my enemies.
Right.
So anyway, so these things, I would say things, and they would basically be taken purposely out of context. The police would be sent to my door. They would call 911. I had campus security at my room probably a couple dozen times. The city police came to my door probably a dozen times, and they talked to me about things.
In this 2 years leading up to
in these 2 years, yes.
Yeah.
And each time, obviously, I wasn't arrested, so I did nothing wrong. And I can't remember specific examples, but essentially what would happen would be they would come to talk to me. They would realize this is ridiculously stupid, so they would leave. And then it would continue. But there were a couple key events I want to mention. In my freshman year, this was in the very beginning. I think this might have been part two, if you're alluding to that.
Yeah.
I had a professor there who was somewhat liberal, and she was my advisor, and but I was always very honest with her, and she was always very honest with me back. So she was a very big help to me because after freshman seminar one time, she said, "Hey, Mr. Gerhard, can I talk to you after class?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I swear to God, this is her words, not mine. I'll never forget them. She said that there was a secret council being formed against me, and decided what to do about me. And it was made up of students and faculty. That is what she said. So she said that there was already a meeting that my professors I had stood up for me in the meeting. And I'm like, and at the time you would think a reasonable person would be like, "Oh, well, tell me all about it." I didn't give a shit. I just said, "Oh, well, fuck it, whatever." And I walked out the door. I should have asked questions. I didn't. I still regret that today because I wish I would have known what this was
Got
about.
some more clarification.
That's lawsuit material.
Is this still within the context of the first semester?
Oh yeah, first or second. Yeah, it's first year.
First year.
I can't remember exactly when, but so yeah. So anyways, there is students and faculty after me, and that became very obvious from the get-go. And then there were other incidents throughout the year, and throughout the second year as well. And for just to run through it, I had my car windshield smashed out one time.
Really?
Yeah. So like I said, never knew who I drove.
So because of your words objecting to different things, or at least voicing your opinion, they violently attacked your property.
Mm-hmm. And so I didn't bother reporting to the city police because I knew they were a bunch of Keystone cops and they wouldn't figure out anything. I filed it a report to the Well, actually, I was walking out to my parking lot when I found it. It must have just happened, and there was a public safety cruiser rolling right by it. They just rolled past it, and they went back to their station. And I just got in my car. I followed them, and I said, "Hey, you guys saw that, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we saw that." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I want to file a report, obviously." And he's like, "Yeah." And so, and I knew all the guys because I actually worked for the public safety department for a semester.
And they come to your door frequently, apparently.
Yeah, they know me very well. And so I asked them, okay, and they're like, he's like, "Do you know if you have any enemies?" I'm like, "Yeah, fucking the whole campus." Or half the campus or whoever.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. And so anyway, a semester goes by and I'm like, I'm not gonna figure it out. Anyway, I'm sitting in political science class one day, and behind me there's a girl. I had a spy. I had a liberal friend she's still my friend, very liberal, but she was reasonable. And I had actually met her through the first event because she had asked me to explain what I meant instead of just attacking me. And so
that is very rare.
I meant to meet with her and I talked to her about it, and she's like, "Wow, that's actually very reasonable." So we became friends after that. And ever since that point, she would let me know when things were going down.
Okay.
She can't be a liberal then, because liberals don't have.
Yeah, they don't have.
She was like a double agent.
Anyway, yeah, she was like my spy. And anyway, I was sitting in class. She sat behind me. Her friend sat behind me too. And somehow my car came up, and I stupidly said that it was my car that was actually vandalized. They were talking about the vandalized car. And I'm like, yeah, I ruled it out. It was just some random thing because it happened to other people too. And she's like, "Oh, no, it wasn't random. I know who did it." I'm like, "Well, tell me." And she's like, "No, I'm not going to tell you." And then I look at my spy, and she's like, and so I'm like, "All right, if she hadn't done that, I probably would have, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been very pissed, but
right.
I knew I was going to get the information. I got the name. The name was Caitlin Wolf. She was actually a police officer now. I think she's in Bay City or somewhere. She's a police officer now today, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. She committed a felony while she was going to college for law enforcement, and that's a running theme too. Most of people I went to college with that caused these issues were all criminal justice students. So when I go on about how I thought there'd be a brotherhood sort of thing, most of them were the cops, and they're probably police officers today.
Well, that's a commentary
Potentially
that we can
abusing
have
power.
about that Blue Shield. Is there's a lot of nefarious things that happen that are protected by
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. So they're a bunch of cunts. And anyway, I hate them all. But deal is, I got the name. I reported it to, I guess I should go backwards a little bit for that too. I had gotten into trouble for something else. There was an email sent out by all these schools send out stupid liberal emails sometimes. And there was one about a play being.
It is a college.
There was a play going to be put on by the school about the Trump wall and how it was all bad. And I sent out an email saying, I replied to him I was like, "Stop sending me this communist bullshit" or something. And it was a no reply email. So I thought at the time no reply.
No one watches it.
I thought no reply meant like replies wouldn't be seen or something. I was just pissed. I just sent it out.
Right.
And so I got called to the dean's office to actually talk about that. And while I was there, she's like, "Hey, we get it. This happened before. Somebody else had sent an email out like this before. She didn't think it would be sane, but it was. But if there's any problems that you have, I wasn't in trouble then. If there's any problems you have, come see us." I'm like, "Okay, sure, right?" Well, this was the one time I actually did decide to go to them. I'm like, "Okay, I got the name."
When your windshield was
Yeah,
smashed, yeah.
I got the name. I know who did it. I want you to investigate. So I went to them. I gave them the two names. I gave them the name of my contact, my spy, and the name of the person who did it. And so, again, the person who I gave them to talk to initially for my contact, that was the only name they were basically going to have to talk to at first. And I communicated with the dean's office for like 2 weeks until spring break. And they had said that they were working on the case. And I had talked to my spy, and she said, "Nobody's talked to me." I'm like, I gave them one fucking name to talk to. Essentially, they weren't going to talk to the actual suspect. They were supposed to talk to the person who knew of the suspect.
And confirm the name.
Yeah. So I'm like, I gave you one person to talk to, and you didn't talk to them for 2 weeks. How are you What are you investigating? And then eventually, after spring break happened, and then a week later, after spring break ended, so about a month and a half later, basically, they came back and said, "Well, we talked to the person, and they didn't want to say anything, so we give up."
Wow. And a criminal justice. So two quick questions. How many friends did you have before you came to campus, or did you have none and you're meeting everybody?
I didn't have anybody. So yeah, 2,000 people there. I didn't know anybody there. I had a group of friends initially, like the first week of class, I made a group of like a dozen people.
Okay. So these are part of your. So what I'm establishing here is that the group of friends that you eventually have to weed out the spies from, they were all brand new people to you that you're establishing relationships with. So you're assuming
within that first 2 years,
you're walking into a group of like-minded people who want to do the right in the criminal justice, and you're finding out, which is my second question, how much of the woke bullshit had infiltrated these type of campuses. You expected this to be one of these campuses that was still a very conservative, not right extremist, which I really don't think there's such a thing, but very right-leaning, conservative, law-abiding mentalities in there. And you find out that it's just wokeness.
Well, like I said, I mean, now that I go to a different college now, and I see how bad it is today, it's not nearly as bad as it is now, but it was more subtle then. But it was, like I said earlier, with the conservatives being cowardly, it was more or less the fact that the conservatives did nothing. It exemplified the liberal bias. So the liberal bias was basically in effect by default because the conservatives did nothing. I had conservatives come up to me and say, we know who you are. We support what you say, but we can't publicly support you because it would make us look bad.
Such cowardly bullshit.
Yeah, that was the.
I understand now why you said spineless. I was about to jump to the conservatives' defense, but by saying something like they have convictions, but not the spine to execute.
And you see it all the time. You see it all the time. Now I just hate it. And that was the moment I decided, I'm like, I'm not a fucking conservative. I didn't want to call myself that anymore. I'm like, I'm not a conservative. I fight for my beliefs. Right.
Actually stand up for it.
I take action. Right.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I think that's why Lucas drew so much fire, is because
he didn't back down.
He didn't back down. He wasn't vindictive or antagonistic about anything. He defended his stance, and it drove them bananas because they've never confronted that on the campus environment.
And by the way, if you're playing our drinking show for our firearm puns being triggered and takes fire, now you're on 2 shots.
Easily on 2 shots.
There's many. I wanted to make a comment about the multiple calls and how many times local law enforcement and use of 911 was used. At some point, was it ever brought up, or did you ever think on the fact that it's a misdemeanor for misusing the 911 system? But if they're calling for the potential of a combatant kind of threat on campus, and you get swatted, and they come in and they kill you, it is a felony for making a call. On you. And did that ever come up that they're misusing the 911 system?
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would, before we even got to the whole terrorism thing, because I had thought initially that it was retarded that they were even calling 911 in the first place. If I saw a street fight, I wouldn't even call 911. I would just say, hey, break it up, go your separate ways. They called I was sitting in the lobby, and I was a sheriff's cadet sergeant, and I basically was doing a presentation on law enforcement at one time. I was sitting in the lobby. I had a duffel bag and a plexiglass riot shield with me. I was going to use as props in my class as a presentation thing. And I was sitting in the lobby, and I waited for everybody to clear out of the main campus, and I walked out the campus. I couldn't see anybody. I made it to the building I was going to give this presentation in. By the time I got there, there was a public safety officer, and he was like looking around. And I'm like, that's weird. I go into class about 5 minutes later to give my presentation. And as I'm giving it, 2 Sault Ste. Marie police officers walk in. They're like, hey, we need to search you. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
this is in the middle of his speech in a class.
Yeah. And so,
on
law enforcement.
Yeah. Law enforcement. So they're like looking in my bags with flashlights and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is this about? And they're like, and it turns out it was a suspicious activity report. I'm like, you called police for somebody? I literally made sure, because at this point, I mean, this was you already know
the spotlight's on you.
I already knew all this was happening. So I negated the fact that anybody would see me, because as ridiculous as it sounds, carrying a bag and a plexiglass shield, and even I knew that would probably offend somebody. So I was like, oh, they're better. I didn't see anybody. So the one person that probably saw me, this whole freaking campus was like, oh, we got to call 911 now.
But on a campus, this is ludicrous to me, on a campus where there is a law enforcement curriculum. It's like here's what I'm thinking. Well, remember the scene in Aladdin where the monkey has a sword and we all have swords? the whole concept of if you were in a police academy and somebody called you for having a gun, he's got a gun. We all have guns. It's like there's a curriculum here that teaches material on the use of these materials. It's ludicrous.
And you're already, would you say you were a sheriff?
A cadet sergeant.
Cadet sergeant.
Yeah. Well, I did the job of lieutenant, to be honest with you. I was in charge of 30 cadets.
Oh my gosh.
So I was the only sergeant in the unit.
Now, you still were not allowed to carry firearms
on campus?
on the campus.
No firearms on campus. No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
You could bring them. You could bring them on the campus, but you could not carry them.
I think he's talking about a cadet.
Yeah.
Because
But-
if you're a cadet,
Yeah.
you know.
I wanted to say too, though, the reason that I was called on for that was definitely because it was me. Like they knew.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
you're a
Right.
target. Once you
Right.
get a target
If
on you,
somebody
you're-
else had done that, it would have been fine.
It's like
Yeah.
Gladys Kravitz looking out of the window,
Right.
He's leaving. Get the car.
Yeah.
It was a
I was
mild
thinking,
form of swatting.
Roz.
Always watching, Wazowski. I'm always watching.
Yeah. So that had happened, and there were so many other.
So you've got a ton of bullshit just piling up, and they're stacking the deck against you. We come to this photograph of you just putting. And so give the real quick context. This is in a locker away from campus.
Well, okay, the picture was actually taken at home.
This-
So
the night before he left for
Let me give
school.
the timeline of the picture.
All right, give me the timeline, and then I want to move
Yeah.
in to some other
Because it's kind of
dynamics.
confusing. So I'll try and explain it. Because again, it's confusing to me at the time because I did not understand the what's the word for it? I didn't understand the significance of this picture when I took it. Because
looks like potentially a basement fireplace.
Yeah, no, that's my living room.
Oh, it's the living room. So living room fireplace.
I live 300 miles away from Lake Spear State.
Yeah.
Okay. And I took this in my living room, again, 300 miles away.
Okay.
I was bored as shit. I was like, I didn't know what else to do. I was walking around my house. That's my packs full of my stuff to go to college. And which again, they had said that those tactical packs, they said that was body armor, even though they should have known better. And they did because they searched them later. So they should know that these weren't flak vests or anything. Anyways, I was bored as shit. This was about a day before I was supposed to go up. I was going to go up that night, but then you pointed out, Dad, that the housing office wouldn't be open. I would just be stuck there. So I'm like, oh, shit, I'm just going to wait. So I ended up taking the picture. It goes away after 24 hours, right?
Okay.
Nothing was said. Actually, there were a couple things said now that I think about it. Two of my friends, my best friend and somebody else had said, hey, basically, look out. Like, I know this isn't a threat or anything scary, but somebody could take it that way. I'm like, oh, I guess you're kind of right. So I didn't think it was a threat anyway, but I knew that it could be taken because the people are idiots.
Right.
So I posted a disclaimer. There's a picture out there that you probably can't find because the prosecution tried suppressing it. I specifically said, I said, that picture was not a threat. I specifically stated that.
You posted a comment
A disclaimer.
under the actual
Yes, a
post.
disclaimer post. I said
Yeah.
this was not a threat. I specifically said it. And that was conveniently left out of the entire case.
Of course it was.
Of course.
Because it would damage their case.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to leave it out.
So I posted that about, I don't know, like a couple hours later.
Okay.
And then I just kind of went about my day. And then I went up probably like a day after that was posted. By the time that I had actually got up to school, the picture was like gone, right?
Sure.
So what I got up there, the first thing I did was I turned in my rifle. I went to the armory. I turned the rifle into the public safety office. And right when I got there, I was texting him the whole time. I was like, this is really suspicious, And I guess I hadn't done a good job of telling him or anybody else what was actually going on at Lake State.
Yeah.
So I kind of just sounded like some paranoid nutcase, I guess, because I was always saying, oh, they're after me. There was a conspiracy, but I didn't explain it to anybody else. I didn't care.
Well, you said you brushed it off.
Yeah, I brushed it off. And so I was saying, like, they're acting really weird because I brought it into the office. There was an auxiliary officer working there. And I said, hey, I'm turning this rifle in. And as soon as she was supposed to check me in. And then the freaking chief comes out and he's like, no, I'll handle this. Like, step aside. I'll handle this. I'm like, that was fucking weird. Because I worked for him for a semester. I knew the procedure. And that was weird. And so I was like, all right. So we go around through the double locked doors. I go to the basement.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, where's the serial number? I just got the damn thing. I didn't know where the serial number was. And I'm like looking around. He's like, don't you know where the serial number is? And I'm like, no, I don't fucking know. And I was like, is this it right here? He's like, no, that's not it. You're trying to like do stuff. I'm like, no, I don't know which one it is. And, there's a bunch of stuff written all over the damn
So this
thing.
was the first AR that you had.
Yeah, this was the first one I ever bought.
You must have turned 21.
No. I was 20 for 1 week.
20 was
Yeah.
the age of being able to.
I think it's 18.
Oh, is it 18?
18 for long guns.
It's 18
Yeah.
for long guns.
So
Okay.
I had
It's 21 for pistols.
I had
Yes.
just turned 20. I was 20 for about 1 week when this happened.
So I think one thing important, because folks watching your show might not understand
Lake Superior
the
State
significance
allows-
of Lake Superior State's
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to clarify.
uniqueness.
Yeah, Lake Superior State allows firearms. Yes.
So do they have a range
Oh, yeah, they do.
on campus and everything like that?
Yeah,
Do they
I-
encourage you to bring your own firearms to be comfortable with shooting?
Well, so the range is for law enforcement cadets and stuff. The
Correct.
purpose of the armory is for people who go hunting and want to go take it out somewhere around town. You can. The thing is, people up there's a lot of people who use guns up there. So I was telling you where I was taking it. He took me to the basement. It's a room with like 50 lockers, and there's so many freaking guns down here. They don't even have them all secured. The lockers were all taken up. Some people have their guns just sitting out down there because there's too many guns. So they didn't have enough proper space to storage the guns. So they're unsecured down there.
That is honestly the only thing that makes sense about your entire story. that school, all the wokeness and all the other bullshit doesn't make any sense. The fact that the armory is so overstocked
It's
with
a
weapons.
gun culture. I mean, I went to Michigan State. We went out and drank and tipped over cows if we got really crazy.
Yeah.
We go out and shoot.
Yeah.
Everybody, it was a surreal experience in today's world.
Yeah.
Going on a campus visit and watching students walking around with broken down shotguns, gun cases, bows, crossbows, black powder.
They're just walking on campus.
Walking on campus. It's an honor system.
There's a game room underneath my dorms building. There's a game room where you skin and
so it's a full up stainless steel.
So what was your
Very
intention
nice.
of bringing your AR up there? Was it to hunt or just practice shoot
I actually-
or a
yeah.
lot of things?
I intended to get a hunting license my first day there actually, but that didn't work out.
That didn't
obviously.
pan out.
No, it didn't. I'm a target shooter. Paper target shooter, I should clarify.
He was doing ride-alongs with the conservation officer.
Yeah, I was doing ride-alongs with the DNR up there. But
so you're there that day. You're checking in your
Yeah, so I'm
firearm.
checking it in,
The
and he's-
big dick swings
Yeah.
in and
Well,
decides to check you in.
that wasn't even the only thing. Again, 2,000 students go here.
Mhm.
That year, we were getting we had just all the buildings were just unlocked buildings at the time, but they were upping their security for some reason. Oh, and actually, not to mention that too. When I got there was no police there. I mean, in retrospect, that was kind of strange considering that the fact they had thought that I was a terrorist supposedly. They had a report. So they had reported that I almost come to campus. That's what I'm going to get to. But there was no police there.
Right.
But 2,000 students go there. The chief basically out of his pocket pulls and hands me an ID card. He said, "Hey, we're getting new key cards this semester. This is your ID card." And I'm like,
"Why do you have it?
Why the fuck do you have it?" Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, another retrospect is, if they thought I was a terrorist, why is the freaking chief of security giving me a fucking key card to the whole campus? I have the damn thing right here. No, wait, no, I don't. I don't have my wallet anymore, but I don't care. I don't need it. But why is he giving that to me, right?
Right.
And I'm really gonna tie that into the fact I knew this. They didn't really see how far this was gonna go. So he gives me a key card. I'm like, this is weird. This is the point I start texting him like, Dad, something's up. There's no way he just has my ID in his pocket. So I go to housing to get my key. And I was supposed to go to other places to get my parking pass and stuff too.
Yeah.
And
to over explain, you're saying that the director of what was his position again?
I think he's like they call him like chief.
He's the
or
director of
something.
public
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah.
Of public safety.
No, he
was
wasn't the
the-
director. He's chief. Yeah.
Okay, chief of public was expecting you,
Yes.
and so had your clearance access card
Mm-hmm.
on his person when you showed up.
Well, and that wasn't the only reason that's suspicious too, is because that's not a normal stop to make. Most students, 99% of students don't stop at the armory building their first, day on campus.
Okay.
They can leave their weapon in their vehicle.
Well, no,
Secured?
they can't. But how was he supposed to know I was bringing it? That was my suspicion. I'm like,
Right.
how did he know I was going to be here?
Because you didn't give him a heads up. You
Yeah.
didn't call him and say, "Hey, I'm bringing a gun."
No, in fact, the only thing I did do, I called public safety and asked anonymously, "Hey, can I bring my gun up? I have an AR-15." They're like, "Yeah, no problem." And it wasn't even him that answered. So, and that was days before. I didn't even tell him who I was.
And how many of the other cadets there bring their
Probably everybody.
everybody?
Probably, yeah.
Well, you got to you can butcher your latest kill in the basement. Of
Yeah.
your, of
And
your
the
dorm.
armory was
Literally.
full. Yeah.
And the
So-
armors are over full to where the lockers are.
Unsecuredly, yeah.
Yeah.
So he again, I was like, that's weird. Because most people won't stop there. So he knew I was stopping there,
Mhm.
everything. So I go to get my housing key for my dorm. And the housing office is actually closed. I was like 30 minutes late. But there was a secretary in there, and there, you know, was empty. The lights were off. She's like, "Oh, you know, I can help you over here. What's your name?" She was going to her computer to look up and everything. And I said, "Lucas Gerhard." And she's like, "Oh." And then she walks over to her empty desk. There's one plain white envelope on her desk. She picks it up and she hands it to me. And I'm
sitting
like,
there waiting for
just
you.
on her empty freaking desk. There's one envelope. Here you go, Lucas. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Inside was my key and my parking pass. I'm like, "What the fuck?" And I was I was texting him like, what is? So again, and anyway, I'll get into like how this is so stupid in a minute. I go up to my dorm. I carry 3 flights of stairs. I carry up all my stuff. I dump it all over the floor. And this is where you said you couldn't believe I was so messy last time. But yeah, my room was a mess. I was just so worn out because I had been awake for over a day at this point because I had prepared to leave early that morning, but I had waited hours to leave. So I was super tired.
Right.
So I was exhausted. So I just dumped
And what's
my
the
shit.
drive from home to the campus?
Yeah,
So
so
5.5 hours?
Yeah, 5 hours.
5 hours. Okay.
So it's 45 minutes past the bridge. The last exit on 75.
Oh, it's only 45.
Past the bridge. Yeah. Once you pass that, it's 45 minutes to Canada. Because if you miss the
I keep thinking of
Tech.
I keep thinking of Lawrence Tech.
Tech's a long ways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's over to Marquette, isn't it?
Yeah. No. That's northern.
Oh yeah, Houghton,
Yeah.
Hancock. That's all the way up there. That's why I keep
Tech's up
thinking.
here.
Yeah, Tech's up there. Yeah.
So anyway,
So
and-
5
so, yeah,
hours,
so
no
5 hours,
sleep.
no more sleep. So I just
Yeah,
pass out.
She just throwed it down
And I guess I kind of want to explain because now everybody obviously knows, you know, I was under investigation for terrorism at this point. I want to mention the fact that there was no police presence there, so they thought supposedly that I was a terrorist. So if that was
from this
post,
one photo.
yeah. So why wasn't there police there? And I think it was because they didn't actually think it was a threat. They wanted to get me expelled. They did not want to. They did not want to.
They
arrest
want to
me.
turn it to a case. They just wanted you to go.
Yes. Sure. How do you want me to work into that?
No, I got it.
Okay.
He was hearing you.
Oh. Okay. All right. So anyway, that's gonna sound weird.
He'll cut it. Go ahead.
All right. So yeah.
So there's no police presence here.
No police presence, and so they essentially they're accusing me of terrorism, but there's no police presence. So they accuse me of something and they act in a completely different way. So the police were not on campus to stop a supposed terrorist attack. The chief of security gives the supposed terrorist a key card to every building on campus. The housing office gives the supposed terrorist a key to a locked room, a barricaded suspect situation. They arrive when the police finally arrive. I was asleep. They knock on my door. I'm like, they say police. I'm like half expecting like bullshit. Somebody's pranking me. It's the first fucking day here.
You're on a campus studying criminal.
Well, I mean, this had happened, like I said, a dozen times before. The police had come to see me. I was like 50-50.
So you got buddies now that are fucking with you just to do it.
Well, it turns out it was the police.
Right, but you're thinking it's a prank because it's happened so many times. You're like, all right, it's.
I guess my mindset was I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked. Like I was surprised that it happened so early and that was occurring in the moment, but I wasn't shocked that it was actually going to happen because it had happened before.
Okay.
So the police were like, "Do you have any idea where we're here?" And it was the police plus the chief of security, so 3 of them. And I'm like, I'm like, I was so out of it. I just woken up.
Right.
And
So again, this is the first day of your 3rd year.
Yes, the first day of my 3rd year.
Got it.
And I was just like, what the hell? So I'm like, is there something about my gun? Because I saw the security guy there.
Sure.
And I'm like, and he's like, yeah. And he's like, do you recognize this? And he shows me a piece of paper with my gun on it. I'm like, oh, shit.
The post.
Yeah,
photo.
he shows me that piece of paper right there. Yeah. I'm like, all right. And so, and what I had learned about talking to the police, and again, you shouldn't talk to the police, and I don't recommend anybody ever do it.
Nope.
But I had done it because I trusted them to be reasonable to somebody who was supposedly going into their field. So, and again, it's hard to, looking at it from an outside perspective, you think, oh, you can explain things away. You really can't.
Nope.
There's no point to explain anything away. Because at the end of the day, anything you say will be used against you. Not that it can, it will be.
It's the whole point of Miranda being passed into law.
And I was never Mirandized either, but you know, you don't even.
Oh.
You don't have to be technically, you don't have to be, but Yeah, it's
still in effect whether they say it or not.
Well, they claimed he wasn't being detained.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
had a cop
Not
standing in the
until-
door,
Mhm.
had him in a chair with
so
another
all
one
it's been a
standing over.
setup. Yeah, like you're saying, the cop. So I'm like, fine, come in. So Chamberlain, his name is Chamberlain. Now I think he's a deputy with Chippewa County Reserves or something. He stood in the doorway of my dorm. So in other words, here's the other thing too. When they asked me if they could come in, I know my rights. I thought I did more than I did at the time, but I did not know I could deny them access because it was a dorm.
Yep.
And technically you can, and I know
Yes.
that I do know that now.
It's your
but
personal residence. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I thought, as just a student, I thought that it would look bad. I thought that they would say, "Oh, well, you can't deny us entry. We're going to come in anyways."
Yeah.
But since it was a public, since it was a campus property, technically, I was like, "Oh shit, all right, whatever, come in."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and something you had told me before too, Lucas, after it happened, was like you thought, after all these times of people calling in and harassing him by calling, either the sheriff's or the Sault Ste. Marie police or the public defender, public safety, that you thought it was going to be another one, another one of these deals where, okay.
And you're assuming these people should know by now that this is bullshit.
What kind of kabuki dance we have to do now and figure just get this over with.
Mhm.
That's kind of what you're
Especially since they didn't follow up on your window being smashed. You're like, then why are you following up on a fucking picture?
Yeah, and so I had learned through my talks, like I was saying, that I know how to handle them at this point. Usually what I would do is I would appease them. I would just say, yes, sir, I understand. Yes, I understand how this could be taken. And in hindsight, it's the stupidest thing I could have possibly done. I basically said that.
Okay, question. I know not to cut you off. I'm sorry, but you understand what understand means.
Yeah, like it's basically.
Understand. I stand under your authority of your statement regardless of my rights.
Well,
that's what that statement means to law enforcement.
I was basically saying to them, this is why I said it was the worst thing I could possibly say.
Sure.
I was basically saying that I gave justification to their.
You admitted, yes, I see how that could be taken that way. Therefore, I am ex post facto guilty of what you're.
That's pretty much what I said. Yeah. And so I was just saying that to appease them because that's usually what I did. Just to kind of, like, yes, sir, I understand. Yeah. Get out of here, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I had done that again. And as I was doing that, I began slowly but surely to realize, like, this time was a bit different. Because what I had neglected to do, because like I said, I was tired, I had turned my rifle in like I was supposed to. However, I failed to turn my bayonet in. The bayonet on the picture. That bayonet was in my room. And they had a huge...
You kept a knife?
Yeah.
Really?
I knew a guy with explosives in his room. So anyway...
Yeah.
Like you're on a campus with multiple weapons.
Yeah, and so... And this part pissed me off the most. When they were... So these can we search the room? I'm like, yeah, sure. Go ahead and search the room. And then they found the like he kept asking me, he was questioning me about my post, and then he was also saying, where's the weapons? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe there's some in here, because I didn't know. And it was all dumped out everywhere. I'm like, there might be something over there. And it's actually kind of funny when you look at the statement by the police officer. He's like, every time asked, Gerhard presented a new weapon. So he asked me 4 or 5 times, and every time he asked me for a weapon, I gave him a new one.
But we're talking like a pocket knife.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Things like that.
Yeah. So
I got a fork.
And his baton.
Well, because I was trying to determine what the fuck he thought was a weapon and what wasn't a weapon. I had a BB pistol. I don't consider a BB pistol to be a weapon. So I was like, is that a weapon? He's like, oh yeah. And then, but what pissed me off the most was that the security officer, I had a handsaw, and he's like, well, now this I can understand, and he gave me it back. I'm like, you fucking subjective piece of shit. You think you have the authority to dictate what is like
a lethal weapon or not?
Yeah, basically. I'm like, that's so. I'm glad he didn't take my saw, but it's basically he's saying that it's up to him to determine what's a weapon, what's not a weapon.
I got 10 fingers, 8 fingers and 2 thumbs.
Yeah,
they're all weapons.
Like, and I had my bayonet, my bayonet, my baton, my BB pistol, a pocket knife. I think 2 pocket knives.
And you had a strap cutter that I gave you.
Strap cover.
Which is like a tactical gift wrap cutter. It's to cut a strap if you're hung up.
Like a tactical box cutter,
which you couldn't possibly use as a weapon. I don't know how you could possibly. But they were looking at it. They were mystified by it. They're like, what is?
Well,
what is this thing?
I didn't know what it was.
I could see like a little blade inside there. And
I didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're searching me. They're questioning me.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm done with the appeasement level. I'm starting to get kind of like fucking
Pissed off.
I'm getting fucking annoyed.
Yeah.
And in the video, in the body camera, you see, I'm like putting my hand up to I'm trying not to be visibly, because I know they look for visual cues. I'm trying not to be visibly like fucking frustrated with these guys, but I'm like, okay. I asked them like, how is this a terroristic threat? And what the police officer tells me, he says to me, he's like, have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz? And I'm like, yes. What? And he said,
he said, I've got a story after this. But
yeah. He says, so he's like, you seen The Wizard of Oz? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, what happens to the Wicked Witch? And I said, well, she gets a bucket of water on her and she melts. And he's like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. You know, she gets a bucket of water on her, she melts and she dies. So therefore, death by melting equals snowflakes by melting equals death, school shooting threat, that kind of thing. So he equated melting the snowflake, melting the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz to melting snowflakes equals both, death, basically, terroristic threat.
That was a verbalized basis for their investigation.
Yeah.
When Lucas told me that story, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, no, really. I said, you sure? And he's like, yeah, what happened? So a little after that, we had a press conference up in Lansing. Representative John Riley, he heard about this, and he's like, we got to change this law. And we won't even go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
But during that press conference, I get up and tell the story. I'm like, you wouldn't believe the rationale they gave to think this was a terroristic threat. And Lucas was over there thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't get this wrong. Well, a few weeks later, we get the body cam.
The body cam is exactly.
And it was verbatim.
Yeah, I was so I found it so unbelievable that I questioned my own memory. I was half the time when I was telling you, I'm like, I'm not even fucking sure this did happen, but I'm just gonna tell you it anyway because I'm pretty. Where did this come from?
Right.
It was so ridiculous even to me, and I had been dealing with these people for 2 years, and I thought that was even crazy.
Wow.
So this was like a new level for them. That was their justification for it, and I kind of think too that maybe the police officer in his own right maybe did not even know himself why he was there, because again he was dispatched out by.
He's just told there's a threat.
Yeah.
Figure it out in your head of how this justifies.
Yeah, and he was trying to justify it.
He's trying to come up with some shit to rationalize why he's being sent out.
Exactly. So I don't even think he freaking knew why he was there, but he just thought something like, I don't know. But anyway, he said that. I'm like, all right, this is fucking dumb. But anyway, so every time I give him a new weapon, they said to me too, like, oh, now we have to search the room. I'm like, well, I was letting you search the room anyway.
Right.
So they found these weapons. I told them, I think I think somewhere on my audio. Anyway, I think I told them that I was like, I'm so confused what a weapon is. I could use this chair as a weapon.
Right.
I could beat somebody with this chair. Does this count as a weapon?
And now they're adding that up. Oh, you can use a chair now.
Yeah.
Oh, you can do
He's
this
got a
now.
chair in his room. Like I said,
I got 4 fingers and 2 thumbs. Are registered in 7 states.
Because to me, I mean, a pocket knife's a tool. I mean,
Sure.
it's used for so many things. I didn't consider a pocket knife a tool.
A
My
weapon.
baton is a training weapon. The only thing I would consider maybe a weapon is the freaking I was in K-bar. It was just bayonet.
Yeah.
And but still, that's still arguably just a tool. Anyway,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
They later admitted none of these were weapons. They might have been illegal to have in the dorm.
Yeah, I was
couple
never
of them,
charged.
but there was no charges.
Yeah.
Okay, so were you arrested at that point, or
No.
did they walk out?
No. So actually, I want to mention too that when they walked up, they again to a terroristic threat. They walked up very casually the first time. No, there were 2 of them. The guns,
big deal.
Guns holstered, no big deal. And I'll get into why that's important later in a minute. So they leave. They're just okay. No, they take off. They take me to my car. They're like, they want to search my car. I let them do it. They were investigating my e-tool.
And now you're like, yeah, you couldn't search my room. You can't search my car.
Well, I just let them do it because I know I didn't have anything in there. I just wanted to.
Right.
I wanted to.
The innocent man is the one who complies and ends up suffering.
I wanted to appease them, and they were interested in the entrenching tool I had. They're like, "What's this shovel for?" It's like a collapsible shovel.
You're like, you've never heard of the military? You know how many uses they have?
You know
for
what
this?
really pissed me off? The fucking security guard. When I walked into the public safety building initially to turn my rifle in, I had a rifle sling, and I slung it over my shoulder. Because that's what a sling is for.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were at the car, and looking in the car, and they were trying to explain to me why this was like a serious thing. They were kind of like giving me like just trying to chew me out kind of thing.
Okay.
And the security guard, he was like, "You walked in with the slung all over your shoulder like you're a soldier or something. You're not a soldier. You're not right. You're not a soldier." I'm like, "No, I'm not a fucking." He's like, "So why are you carrying with a sling?" I'm like, "What do you want me to do? Carry with the carry handle with the muzzle flagging everybody I see, or with my arms, my trigger on the finger?" So I carried it in the most proper
They're
way
just
possible.
trying to find bullshit no matter what they could.
Yeah. So he had a problem with the way I carried it, like it was supposed to be.
They're pulling
I think
shit.
he had a problem with you open carrying it. I think most people had
cases and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I had just bought it anyway, but yeah, so they searched the car, nothing. I go back to my dorm, I call you, tell you what happened. You couldn't believe it. You thought it would just go away.
Because this is another incident.
He told me, I said, Lucas, this is First Amendment stuff. Don't worry about this. He's like, he was all upset about it. And I said, look, do you want me to come up there? And this was a weekday, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a month.
This was.
And you're the first
weekday.
First 24 hours of being there.
No, this was a Friday.
It's the first 24 hours of you being there.
Yeah.
So he asked me to come up, and I said, you know what? If you want me to come up, I'll come up. So I called off work the next day and drove up.
Okay.
And just a quick story. I mean, we got up there, everything was fine. We went around campus.
Wait. One thing happened when you did come up, though. He brought a bunch of stuff with him. Like I had hiking stuff. He had a refrigerator with him. When we were carrying the refrigerator up, I distinctly remember seeing Lauren Bonds in the fucking hallway as we were carrying.
Want to know what's in the fridge?
Yeah. So I have the body camera footage. She's bigger than the damn fridge. But I have the body camera footage of her and Haley Schuster talking to the police officer, and the police officer saying, "Don't talk to them. Lie to them if you have to."
Oh wow.
That kind of thing. So her face looked kind of funny when I saw her that one time, and I was like, at the time I didn't question it, but at the time she had known. Her rat ass she was probably thinking like, why is he carrying a refrigerator? He should be in jail right now.
Probably. Let's do this. We're gonna take our quick break here. And
we got a short break for it.
Yeah, we got a short break, and when we come back, going off of where we're at right now, you haven't been arrested, but they've come in and rifled through all your stuff, your car, and your interrogated you, searched your room, searched your car. I want to catch up with you, Mark, on what your information was. Obviously, Lucas is texting you during this particular event, but I want to catch that up, and then I want to dive into the case itself and move through that. Okay. All right. So we're going to go to break now.
If I was the deep state and I wanted to destroy America, I would rig the election with a puppet candidate, one that was so compromised that they would never say a word about it. I would create a false flag that allows for mail-in ballots. I would be in charge of the ballot counting machines. I would create a false flag to blame all who question the results of the election. If I was the deep state, I would prosecute anyone that went against me. I would sue and prosecute anyone that spoke up about the fraudulent election. I would use my powers to shut down all your internet businesses and bankrupt you. If I was the deep state, I would make everyone an example why you should never question a Democrat ever winning an election. I would imprison my foes. I would use my corrupt DAs and blackmail judges to destroy you. I would make sure all crimes I ever committed never happened. I would prosecute my biggest competition. I would make sure they could never run for office ever again. If I was the deep state, I would convince everyone that Ukraine Nazis were good and women are men. If I was the deep state, I would own every politician that mattered. If I was the deep state, I would push my pedophilia ambitions on you. If I was the deep state, you'd question your sexual identity, but not the medical establishment. If I was the deep state, you would fear to ever resist me. If I was the deep state, you would wish I was really the devil. If I was the deep state, I would say mission accomplished.
We will back the blue. Who's gonna be there for you 24/7, even holidays? Our Minutemen up to date. Police departments take no breaks. Who's gonna stand for justice, running toward the bullets when we call? They give their lives, risk it all, and we never know their names. 911, it's an emergency. Wake up. They're fighting for you and for me. Don't give up. It's time we defend and remind them we will always stand beside you. We will back the blue. Who are these men and women dressed up in the line of fire each day. Someone's dad, someone's mom, someone's daughter, someone's son. What makes them fight for strangers? Holding up the laws that keep us safe, keeping peace in our streets, always one phone call away. 911, it's an emergency. Wake up, they're fighting for you and for me. Don't give up. It's time we defend and remind them. We will pray and stand behind you. We will back the blue. We will back the blue. My father always told me, show them respect. Look in their eyes, shake their hand, and say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you've done. 911, it's an emergency. Wake up, they're fighting for you and for me. Don't give up. It's time we defend and remind them. We will always stand beside you. We will pray and stand behind you. We will back the blue. We will back the blue. Back the blue.
Hey, Dudeman, what do liberals do when Donald Trump gets elected?
This is my brain.
Welcome back. When we left off, you were explaining about everything leading up to it. You hadn't been arrested yet, but you're doing this. Dad, you drop what you're doing. He said he's texting you, giving you basically the Cliff Notes or a little bit. You're still groggy. You've been awake for a while, and you're like, I'm dropping what I'm doing. I'm coming up there. There's been other events. We know about this. You mentioned a dozen with campus police and another dozen with, or is that combined?
There was probably like 2 dozen with security. I don't even know. Yeah, they had told me.
Yeah.
I could probably find out too because he told me they actually had a record of me up there. They had a file for me.
Yeah. So you're going through this. I want to dive in a little bit with you, Mark. This is your son. He's independent. He's got his own mind about him. He's doing his own things, but you're watching. You're still wanting to be a guide if you need to. You have a strong military background. You served in the Marines. You served in Iraq and Afghanistan, correct?
Correct.
You were in the Corps for
almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay. So you're serving for a long time. You've got that background. He's raised in that environment. That had to have an influence, but he's of his own mind. He's making his own decisions. However your relationship is at this point, you're at least allies on what's right and what matters. And so he's obviously texting you saying, hey, Dad, this bullshit's happening to me. What's going on? Give us a brief synopsis of the time, the first time you heard of an incident at campus. Could have been 24 times that he's being interrogated or accosted or at least confronted in 2 years. Now he's walking into his third year at this campus. And he's, here's this incident where they're freaking out over a stupid photograph. What was your mindset going through this and then leading up to this point?
Okay. So I'll just begin with the fact that Lucas and his brother Noah and I have been together, living together ourselves since 2012. Went through divorce. I ended up with full custody of both him and his brother. Okay. So we've been very bonded and close, and it was a contentious situation. So we became very close to that. Lucas and I have had his father and sons.
Oh, of course.
A back and forth.
Young bull and the old bull fighting
Absolutely.
it out.
Yep. Character building stuff, right?
Yep.
But he's always been conciliatory. I've been conciliatory towards him. we've always
to reconcile the
hugged and
relationship
made
no
up.
matter what the
Exactly.
bumps.
It's always been very good. So when he first started going through these things, I think he mentioned he didn't elaborate on a lot of the issues at the first and second year. I knew about the initial post, and he briefly explained that he got some kind of blowback from that.
Right.
But I know Lucas, and I knew he was a strong-willed person, and he's not going to back down. And I chalked it up, being a conservative myself.
Yeah.
I know how it is. You push back a little bit, and they go bananas because
freak out. They can't
compartmentalize. Yeah, they can't get their mind around the fact that they're actually getting, they're not getting their way. So as these incidents, I was pissed off about the window. And in fact, I had called up, I was actually on the road. I don't know, I was at work. I'm a federal employee. So I was, busy myself, but I was pissed off about that one.
Of course.
Because nothing was happening. And it was just before spring break, and I called up and I talked to the dean of students. I'm like, what's going on with this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, we're looking into it. I said, look, you've been looking into it for 3 weeks. From what I understand, you already have names and individuals involved in this. And she says, well, there's been some allegations, but nothing's clear. She was dancing around it.
Of course.
I said, well, we need to get this resolved before they leave for spring break.
Yeah.
And of course it wasn't. It was swept under the rug.
Because at the least, it's an act of vandalism.
Yeah.
At the most, it could be a first strike of a personal attack, physical personal attack.
Yes. So a couple things that he told me about the secret council thing, I kind of took as a grain of salt. Like, all right, maybe they did have a couple people get together, just didn't like them, trying to figure out how to get rid of them. But after that happened, that really instilled in me that there is something nefarious going on here. The school is not acting as an equal share for their students. I think there was probably a liberal element in there that was siding with the liberal side. So that was the initial
that
key.
clued you in.
So when he was I remember him leaving for that third year, and I think one of the last things I said was, "It's a fresh start. Put this behind you. A lot of these idiots they've graduated. Lucas, this is going to be. I think I even said this is going to be a good year for you."
So you're saying you jinxed it, is what you're saying.
I thought it would be a good year, actually, too. I expected it to be.
Yeah, he got,
you called shutout with a minute and a half to go in the third period. And
we had the game. It was all a wrap.
Yeah.
Okay, so I basically I told Lucas, enjoy this last year or two, and you'll be on your way. And he had his rifle. I was very comfortable with that. I mean, I've been around weapons almost my entire life. And
sounds like the campus is pretty comfortable with, except if you post a photo.
Well, and that was and that'll come into play later.
Dun, dun, dun.
Honestly, during the law when we started talking to the legislature and so forth. But so when Lucas called me that morning, he had just gotten the visit from law enforcement. They searched his room and his car, and he said, "Dad, I think I'm in trouble." And I said, "Son, the class is having a started yet. What is going on?" And so I thought, you know what? Don't worry about this. It's not a big deal. And he was pretty wound up about it.
Yeah,
for a good reason. And
yeah.
So I said, "Well, do you want me to come up there?" And 99 times out of 100, Lucas is the kind of kid who's like, "No, Dad, don't worry about it. I got it."
Yeah.
But he's like, "Yeah, if you want to come up," and I'm like,
he needed some moral support at that moment.
Well, I figured this felt different to me, and I think I knew what was going to go down. I actually asked the officer before he left the car. I said, "So how long do you think until you come back with an arrest warrant?" And he said probably a week. And I'm like, that's bullshit. He's lying. It's a felony. It's going to be a day, if that.
Well, you actually asked him, when am I going to find out when this is? What's going on? He says, "Well, we'll get a week or two."
Well, in my head, I knew what he was going to do. He was going to go get an arrest warrant. That's what he was. He was basically just going to, report.
He was gauging it.
Yeah. So he knew what was going to happen. I knew what was going to happen, and it just felt different. I was like, this felt like it was not like the other times. The other times, talking, blah blah blah, leave, whatever. This time was different. So yeah, when I asked you to come up, I was like, I expected them to. I was basically having you come and be like, "All right, here's my stuff, Dad. You take it. And I'm going to go to jail." Like,
which actually happened. I mean, so I called off, told work. I basically.
So during this time, from the start of school and the initial incident, you are becoming more and more aware.
Pause. Somebody's got a vibrating phone.
It's on the table.
Yeah. Oh, that's all it was.
So from the first incident, you're becoming more and more aware of what's going on. You're having to make phone calls specifically over this incident of the broken window. How much are you pushing on Lucas to divulge more information in this as it's ramping up towards this? Because he was reluctant to just kind of handle it himself and do that. Were you pushing back on him saying, what's really going on here leading up to some of these events?
You know what? I wasn't so concerned because I wasn't aware of the mass amounts of issues. I only knew a few select things. In fact, I don't think I even knew about the communications class where you encountered.
I stopped mentioning it.
Lucas kept
frequent.
Yeah, he kept a lot of it to himself. He didn't tell me a whole lot.
There was no point. It happened every other week.
24, and you're just like, it's just another stupid thing.
When he would tell me, hey, they're harassing, I'm getting harassed, and this is all these communists. I thought, a lot of times I would just say, Lucas, you're just being paranoid. Come on, just get through this. A couple of years.
Yeah,
you're going to encounter liberals.
It's a 4-year program, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And just bowl through this. And so I didn't have the context for what was really going on. But when this happened, I literally drove up thinking, all right, I'm just going to put him at ease. This is going to blow over and it's not going to be a big deal. And I got up there and I told him that. I said, man, it's a First Amendment issue. If they were going to do something, first of all, they would have been waiting for you when you rolled up. Your car would have been surrounded with a bunch of tactical guys, dragging you out. So this isn't a huge deal. And barring that, they would have taken you into custody right away. I'd be coming up here to bail you out of jail.
Right.
So I said, let's just enjoy ourselves. We went out to eat. We had to run a campus.
Did you go get a steak or something?
No, we went to McDonald's.
We went to McDonald's. I think I still have that receipt.
Is that the last meal?
The last meal. The last meal is McDonald's.
Well, so campus was when they left me after the interrogation, and I waited for them to come up. Campus, there was a campus-wide event, like Laker Palooza or something. Everybody was out on the lawn watching movies. So they gave me free reign of the campus. Well, all of their 2,000 students were just walking around, hanging out, doing whatever.
Yeah, he had a key card that could open any door in the campus.
Totally casual.
Yeah, we walked around. This Laker Palooza thing was going on. They got movies and popcorn and stuff. It was great. And,
to read between the lines, what you're saying is, if you were really a threat, you would not have, I'm putting up fingers, 1, had a security card, 2 doors to be able to access firearms, 2, in the middle of a big event where you had plenty of targets.
Right, exactly.
That's what you're saying. If you were really that big of a threat.
That's what I was trying to allude to is when this did come down to the arrest.
Yeah.
My question was, why didn't they take this very seriously in the first place? And it was because they didn't think it was a threat. It was only the fact that the prosecutor jumped the gun and tried to make a name for herself.
Well, that came up. I mean, during the initial playthrough of this, my question to the campus was, because of course this made the news. Kids get arrested for terrorism. It's a huge. So the local news is there, and they actually interviewed the director of communications for the school, and they said, "Well, is there anybody in danger?" And the guy literally said something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, but like, we didn't know, there was no threat, but we just had to be careful. Everything's under control. No one was ever in danger. He said that. Okay. Wow. And so
tell them the campus-wide alert they sent out they sent out an email to tell people about me.
Yeah. The next day. Okay. The next day.
That Lucas, like half the other student body, brought a gun to campus and said something about snowflakes.
No, they said that there was an individual on campus that there was something about threats and the situation was neutralized.
It was under control. They didn't even use neutralize. They just said there was an issue with the student, and everything's fine. So my question was, look, if you really thought this was a threat, you had this information in your hands the night before he's driving up. You don't know when he's going to get there, but you have this information.
Could have met him at the campus.
Why not
why not call Oakland County?
Call Oakland County, have him come to the house, or the state police, just have him stop at the bridge. Don't let him get into the UP. Say, you know what, we think there's a threat here. We want to interrogate this individual. Stop him at the bridge, pull him aside. Don't even let him into the UP. Barring that, have a tactical presence on campus. Have have law enforcement there, real law enforcement, not the public safety clowns, but the Chippewa County Sheriff, somebody
having his ID, having his
there,
knowledge. They had his plate, they had his vehicle, make
because,
model. They would have been able to find him easy.
Yeah, but
en route.
And I gotta say this, thank God, Lucas. He usually listens to me when I give him advice. Sometimes not. Typical father.
Oh yeah, thank God. Yeah, right.
But I said, son, you got an open M16, basically. Looks like an M16 A4.
Right.
I said, get that AR into the armory and the ammo. The first thing before you do anything else on campus, don't even go take a piss. Just drive right up to public safety.
You didn't even tell me that. It was pretty obvious.
But I did. I said and so he reinforced. He did. Thank God. That was the first thing he did. Secured the weapon and the ammo. So that would have played well in it if we.
Can you access the armory without individually? Can you access it, or do you have to have a duty sergeant or somebody?
So the way it works is you go in there with your key card or your ID card. You give it to the the security officer. They take you down to the bottom. They keep your card, I think, and then they give it to you. And then you come back, you turn it in, you get your card back and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it's an honor system. Like I said, when we visited campus, one of the big attractions of that place, I think, was, they got kids open carrying shotguns and rifles. I mean, everything.
They don't have those stupid signs up saying that this is a gun-free zone, because it's not.
It's a gun culture.
Yeah, didn't you say there was something about an open carry shotgun from your accuser?
Yeah, well, no.
We had a picture of that, didn't we?
Go ahead and throw it up. We do have a picture of her, and she's standing on campus with the shotgun.
Yeah.
She's standing right in front of the dorm buildings. Just in the parking lot with the shotgun in her arms with this caption.
Hey, you see the building right behind her.
Yeah.
It's Brady Hall. That's
Brady
literally
Hall right
the dorm,
her.
the only dorm. The boys' dorm on campus.
Yeah.
So you got a whole culture of.
She is a little bit more than a mini fridge, isn't she?
She's built like a little
large.
I'm not saying anything.
Let's move on.
Okay. I'm three.
We're not making comparisons.
So I get up there that night. Everything's fine. I'm telling Lucas, if they would have. You would be already in custody right now if they were serious about this. So this is free speech. Don't worry about it. It's going to blow over. It's all good.
Right.
The next morning, and he had a single room in the dorm there. So I just said, I'm just going to stay overnight here because it was late. And I don't want to drive back 5 hours. So
you're crashing his room.
I crashed in his room. And the next morning, 0800, bang, bang, bang.
No way.
It's Sioux PD. They're basically there to take him to custody. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, guys, are you really doing this? You realize what you're doing? They're like, the prosecutors decided to press charges, and she's taking this very seriously. I'm like, prosecutor's an idiot. I mean, how could they possibly think this is a threat?
Wow.
And there's no true threat here. Nothing meets the standards of a true threat.
And if it did, you could have neutralized this hours ago.
And I said, who's to say? I just drove onto campus. No one stopped to check me. No one came to ask who I was.
Also,
I'm in his room.
We stayed. I mean, we could have left. We could
have gone back home.
I could have gone to Canada.
Yeah.
Canada's like 3 minutes. No,
well, your dad could have been bringing you the whole rest of the armory that you forgot to bring.
Yeah, exactly. I could have had a whole trunk.
That's the other thing. My ammunition. I brought about 720 rounds and 3 magazines.
Okay.
That was significant because what kind of a fucking dumb terrorist brings 3 magazines to commit some sort of...
That came up in the preliminary exam. The investigating officer, the sergeant, I can't remember his name. Mayette. He nice guy. I think he meant well. He just wasn't the brightest.
Didn't have a clue.
Not the brightest, not the sharpest tool in the shed,
Yeah.
But he gets up there and they're asking him about the amount of ammunition and the magazines. and so this is the assistant prosecutor. She says, well, were you surprised at that? And he says, yes, actually I was. She's like, well, tell me more about that. She's leaning forward,
anticipating the surprise is going to go her way. And he goes, yeah, he didn't bring shit.
He says, quite frankly, 700 rounds, that's not even a full weekend of shooting. And he says, in 3 magazines, I really kind of expected them to have more.
Yeah, that's not a tactical defense.
That's 45, right? 15s.
And it certainly wasn't a tactical rig.
So these are 15s capacity?
Yeah.
No,
30s. They were 30s.
30s. Yeah. So you've got 90 rounds.
Yeah.
And you're out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it was funny how that all came about. So everything's said and done. They take him into custody and they move him to jail. And I'm immediately on the phone calling every lawyer I know and trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
because I really didn't expect it. I mean, I was probably more surprised than him.
Did they do a tactical SWAT on you, or just knock on the door and say we're taking you into custody?
No, it was very casual. I was very calm about it. Actually, I was so level head. I'm proud of how I acted. They knocked on the door. I was like, all right. I was like, because I know you can, but you can and can't take it to jail. So I was okay. I stepped in my clothes, took my belt off. I know I couldn't take that. Here, Dad, take my wallet. Here, take this, take that. And I just took everything off me that I thought, like I just
They ended up taking anyway.
Yeah, like
I think you were in like fleece.
I was in blue jeans and I was in a Marine Corps t-shirt, and I had a rigger's belt on, and then my wallet in my pocket. I just gave all that to you, and then I said, okay. And I put my hands palm back. And
it was a Mayberry arrest. I mean, they basically came in and said, hey, please come with us. And they cuffed him.
This is you.
That was after.
Afterwards,
that's the
but
clothes
it's the
I
same.
wore.
It's the same shirt that you went in with.
Yeah, they made me take it off for the mugshot because
in front of the Chippewa County Courthouse.
They made me take it off because they didn't want. They knew the picture would go. My mugshot would go public, and they didn't want the Marines.
So they gave you a shirt.
Really?
Yeah, they gave me an extra large T-shirt. My mugshot.
Yeah, it makes them. It looks like that picture. Who was the terrorist? The hairy guy they took into custody in Iraq. I can't remember. He was and he had the ripped up T-shirt. And he's like,
oh yeah,
yeah. That's kind of what his mugshot looked like. Because he had like an XL shirt on. He wears a small, and so it's all his baggy T-shirt. His hair's all messed up. He'd been up for like 25 hours, so he looks like a total mess. And so they post this, and that mugshot got posted on every single news station because that's the only picture they had. Really,
I don't know if it's not giving us the full.
That's it right there.
There's a full.
Yeah.
Well, that one's altered. So funny enough, some of the news stations, it looks like they kind of like changed the coloration to make me look even worse.
Even worse?
Yeah, like he wasn't that pale. But yeah, look at
you do look like a vampire.
The shirt's on backwards.
Look. So the shirt I put it on backwards.
Putting it up.
See the XL? That's the back of the shirt. So
this is a young man who's never been in trouble. He's never even had a speeding ticket. Okay, he's an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, you do look like a little bit of a vampire there, though.
That's because they took.
Were you going to star in Twilight?
They took the coloration of the photo, and plus those people are fucking barbarians. They can't afford a camera with a quality above 144p.
Well,
so they the cameras are.
And you got on backward with the XL out front.
He does look pretty menacing,
all of us,
doesn't he?
Digital video geeks got that comment. Nobody else caught.
Yeah.
Still, like.
So let me finish up my side, then I'll let you get to being in jail. Okay. So he goes into custody, and I'm like, okay, how do I get him out? You can't. He's, there's gonna be a bond posted. You have to wait for that. Meanwhile,
this is a Saturday, right? You were
Saturday.
Friday. You're coming to campus. Saturday, you're there. So is the court even open? So you're going to spend 2 days
in jail for the weekend.
I'll get to that.
Yeah. He gets. I think he gets arraigned later, but So I walk up. I mean, it's a small campus.
Yeah.
And I walk up to the director of human resources, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing? How can you help me get my son?" She's like, "Oh, we can't do anything." I'm like, "Bullshit! You got, you're in school. Tell him you knew this kid wasn't a threat." "Well, we're not so sure." I said, "Well, you're not
what do you
sure?"
mean not sure.
And she says, we have to stay with what the prosecutor's telling us." I said, "Okay." And she says, "Well, is there anything else I can do for you?" I said, "Yeah, you can disenroll my son from your college right now because however this turns out, whether
he's not going
he continues forward or it doesn't, he's not continuing here. I'm not giving you another freaking dime of my money. So I want to disenroll today."
Right.
And they did.
Which should have been a complete and full refund at that moment.
Yes. And my big fear was they were going to try to expel him. And I didn't want that in.
Right.
So this is my thinking at the time. I don't want that on his record. I don't want him to have an expulsion on his record, not realizing he was almost going to have a felony on his record. So, but that was my thought was, I don't want this. I don't want him to harm his future.
I'm returning this book because the last thing I want is a $1.85 late fee. So let's take care of that.
And I was pissed at the school because they did absolutely nothing to stand up behind him. I mean, they cooperated fully and in fact encouraged, I think, a lot of the prosecutors.
Well, if you had faculty as well as students forming a cabal to find out any dirt they can, and you've got 24 different calls abusing the 911 system over bullshit things.
Yes.
That there was an element in that campus that had it out for them. And these are the people that are supposed to be tasked with educating and equipping our future law enforcement. And when you find out
future
that
protection and
yeah,
service.
and you find out that they're the ones abusing the system worse than anybody else, and then you wonder why we have an issue.
And they're all cops today.
Well, that's and what surprised. So I think the police, Sault Ste. Marie police, I think they're not harmless. They can't be held harmless in this. But I think they were just complicit because of the fact that they're basically country bumpkin cops up there,
and that's part of the problem too.
They don't know any better, and they don't deal with this kind of thing, and they're just going along with what the prosecutor wants.
But you served.
I served for 30 years.
I mean, how many times did you run up against an unlawful order and at least raise, or at least, but that's a dynamic in the military that's kind of drilled out of you to even raise an objection.
And that comes with seasoning, because I cannot recall doing anything like that. And there was a couple times I did. I brought it up, and I caught flack, and I held my ground on both times. But as a lieutenant or a captain or even a major, I don't think there's a point where you're a little unsure of your own knowledge and standing, and you're like, okay, should I really question this or not? And that's when a lot of catastrophes.
But you probably weren't in those dynamics of an absolute obvious crime against humanity where you could say
these guys should have known better. I mean, the way that the warrants were written, I think I don't know if we expressed this or not, but I mean, the warrants explicitly pointed out extreme political views. Didn't mention conservative, liberal, just said extreme political views.
It doesn't even matter they got on that. When you write a search warrant, it has to specify what they're looking for, all the specific details, time, place, person, everything that they need. And they just said, well, we are aware of his political opinions, so we are going to seize his property.
Yeah. Basically, it was a Stasi kind of. I mean, it was ridiculous in its face, and it wasn't legal.
Yeah, this boy smells funny.
Yeah,
well, and the problem is that constitutionally there's supposed to be a grand jury impaneled that anything over $20 is supposed to be a grand jury impaneled, and then the warrant.
Yeah, and the grand jury is a whole nother,
that was never done.
But the
prosecutor with a bug up her ass.
I think she was new. And
she
overstepped her bounds. She didn't realize what she was even charging. She just saw, she thought it sounded.
She wanted to seize on that and make a name for herself.
Exactly. But again, the prosecutor, who was, I would assume, a seasoned attorney, at least, politician still, he signed off on it. So it's his baby. It's his ugly baby too.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, Lucas is in jail, and I'm trying to get him out. And after I left the school and went to the jail, they wouldn't let me.
Did you clean out his room?
I had to, yes. In fact, that weekend, I'm not sure exactly how it worked out, because we had two cars up there.
You said I'm disenrolling him immediately.
Wow.
So you go back to that.
They actually sent one of his buddies who was in the public safety department to help me. Because there's 3 flights of stairs and no elevators.
Did they let you access his gun that was in the armory?
No, they kept that as evidence.
No, sure they would have.
I will say to their credit, though, they did ask me for the key to my lock, so they didn't have to cut my bolt. They didn't have to bolt cut it, so they gave me a lock back.
They were fairly reasonable, and the public safety folks that I dealt with they're like, we don't get it, but we'll help you. So I loaded up his car. I think I drove his car back with all his stuff, but I came up the very next Monday when this all started rolling to see if I can get him out of jail.
Okay, so all right, follow the timeline. Friday, you arrive at campus, you check your weapon in, you crash out on the floor, all your stuff's there.
Okay.
Saturday morning.
What morning they came and knocked on the door? Was that Friday morning?
That was Friday. The first day was Friday morning.
Friday morning.
Right. Yep. August 24th.
Do you want me to split off my timeline now of that same event? Because when you were doing all that, he took me and did a whole bunch of other shit.
Yeah.
Let's go over that briefly.
Okay.
And then I want to get into some of the other dynamics of this. You're in jail and everything like that. But let's give the brief timeline of that.
But that's where his timeline will go when he's in jail. Yeah.
Oh, you want to go into the timeline of jail?
Well, yeah, because after they arrested me.
Okay. Let's do that.
So it splits off. He goes.
So you're Saturday. I'm on campus still. You're on campus still. You are trying to figure out how to get him out. They're saying nothing's going to happen. When did you leave?
I didn't leave until I was still trying to get him out through Saturday. I think I finally gave up Sunday morning. I figured, well, it's not going to happen. They told me the arraignment would be taking place somewhere down the line. So that's when I started lining up
lawyers.
Well, there's no, that's the
nobody's answering the phone on Sunday.
The problem is Sault Ste. Marie, which the population of that town is less than Oakland County. So, or I'm sorry, less than. Well, it's a small town.
Yeah.
I didn't know any lawyers up there, and that the lawyers I was calling, I'm calling downstate, and they're like, we don't know one. There's no one up there. We don't know anyone. And so, I'm asking for recommendations. So I was given probably some pretty bad advice, but they said, we do have a full-time public defender here because of an indigent population. We have somebody here on staff that's running cases all the time. I said, you know what?
Okay.
And honestly, I'm in the denial process of this isn't going to happen.
Yeah,
there's no reasonable judge is going to charge. Right. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's just run with this now. Get them through the arraignment, and hopefully this thing will get dismissed and thrown out, and never, then it'll be done, and I don't have to worry about it. And of course, we know that didn't happen. This public defender was an absolute. She should be disbarred. She was that bad, extremely.
I'll get into her.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Lucas can play about her. Her name was Jennifer French. I'll remember that one. France, yes, France. So
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'll remember that one.
Yeah, he's got it tattooed on his.
You got it wrong,
ass
Dad.
cheek.
I'm gonna get the trash can and put it on your side. So every time you say one of these people's name, you can just spit into the trash can.
Oh yeah, she was.
Give me a spit too.
She was bad. And I'll let Lucas.
France.
I'll let Lucas explain that whole situation. But that's when after the arraignment is when I said I need to find an attorney.
So you kind of give up on Sunday as far as is fighting to get that. You got to come back. You got to figure out work. You got to figure out life's still going on. So then how long were you in jail before you get arraigned even?
Oh yeah. So that's the
So go back here. Got to get the T-shirt.
Yeah. So first thing they do is they drive me to the jail, and it's a small town, so I knew exactly where the jail was. It wasn't very far at all. I get booked in. They take that photo. It was cold as shit. They took my shirt off, and I'm like, I was wondering why did they take the shirt off?
That's why you look like a vampire, because it's so cold in there.
Yeah, it's really cold. Really
your blood
cold.
is probably all gone to your stomach to keep you warm.
How red my lips are and stuff. Yeah, and plus, again, they purposely altered that photo. You can find photos of that with me having more color, but anyway.
That's funny. They wanted to make you as white as possible.
They did, yeah. Yep. Anyway, so they took that photo, and then they put me in a holding cell. And arraignments are not until Monday. So I was in the holding cell for 2 days, and actually more like 3 because it wasn't until later in the day. And in the holding cell, they don't give you anything. So it's just like a concrete room with whoever comes in the middle of the night, drunks, whatever. Yeah. So I was in there. They have to arraign you within 48 hours. It felt like 1,000 years to me, but I would be honestly surprised if it wasn't over 48 hours. It felt like it was a long time, and I realized that it probably felt a lot longer than it really was. But I still think that it was probably over 48 hours. Anyways, they don't do things by the book up there, and you'll find out real quick. They do things on their own time and how they feel like it because it's up to them. And they don't have to answer to anybody. Lansing's a long ways away, and then they do good old boy style justice up there. They don't care about what Lansing says. So anyway, I was in there for a long time.
There's a better color shot of you. That's
what I'm talking about. You see how they fucked with the pictures? Yeah, those bastards. Anyway, so I was in this giant shirt on. It didn't fit me properly, so it was freezing. There were no blankets, and they're just concrete floors.
Yeah, look at the difference between that one.
Yeah.
And that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they did, again, but I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? And they're not trying to, they're not trying, anyway.
Yeah.
So people flow through there. There were LSSU students in there in jail for being drunk and stuff, pissing all over the place and stuff in this giant.
And everybody does it. Look at Ozzy.
Yeah, in this holding cell. I stayed in the holding cell with like a pedo for a while too. It was really fucked up.
What were the meals?
Oh, in jail or in the holding? I think in holding it was actually a little bit. It might have been different. Here's the funny thing. We're on a bad bend right now. But to be honest with you, with Chippewa County Correctional Facility, the food was like the one good thing about the place. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was typically it's like the opposite of most jails. The food was like actually pretty all right. Aside from a lot of like a few things. They had really good like cookies and eggs and sandwiches, and I don't know whatever else.
So it wasn't a complete letdown from not getting a steak to just having McDonald's to then having jail food.
I did have spoiled milk one time, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's gross. Anyway, so they had me in holding for 2, possibly 3 days, maybe. Again, you can't tell time holding, especially because there's no windows.
Yeah.
It's just a cold, empty room. That was the worst. Like every dream I had in there, I was like getting arrested. I was like, it was like, you know,
your subconscious is kicking your ass in there.
Oh yeah, I was, you know, and I was like, and then another running theme of the whole case too, being in jail and even outside of jail, is that you don't like looking back on it. I know it took over 1,500 something days to complete. But you don't know when you're getting out. Like I was in jail for a total of 3 months. I didn't know it was going to be 3 months in the jailhouse.
Nope.
You know, I was
3 months
in the jailhouse. Yes. It specifically, and then I was 3 years outside the jail in 100% confinement. But so basically 4 years plus with the, you know, I had other stuff going on too, but 4 years basically, 3 months in jail. And so after the 3rd day, I got arraigned. I remember specifically, I was never asked if I was innocent or guilty. They just presumed I was going to fight it. I mean, I was, but like that was kind of funny. They presumed it. That's when I met my public prosecutor for the first time. I refused to call her a defender. Her name was Jennifer France. The first time I talked to her, she had asked me, "So why do you even need this AR-15? Like, why do you need it?
Is this supposed to be your
This is his defending
lawyer.
attorney.
My attorney.
And she comes in accusing you.
Yeah, and she did it behind a plexiglass wall too. She didn't face to face with me. I was shackled up.
Did she put a bulletproof vest on and like she was all afraid of you?
Maybe, I don't remember that, but yeah. She was like, "What's with the bayonet?" And like, I don't know, for bears. Like I know the answer. Like these are fucking stupid questions to me. I'm like, what do you mean? And so she's trying to build up a case for insanity. She's like, yeah, I swear to God. Well, she didn't think I was crazy. She just wanted to like plea me out as like insane or something and do.
You're like, I didn't fucking do anything.
Do some psychological evaluation.
Fight for me.
And I met her, and then they threw me in. The population.
General population.
General pop.
Yeah. So
how old are you at this point?
I was
20.
I was 20.
You're just 20.
20 for 1 week. Yeah.
For 1 week.
Yeah. And so I was in general population. But when I got in there, they had already knew who I was. They knew who I was when I got in.
General Pop already knew who you were.
Yeah, they already knew who I was.
Jails are quite the rumor mill.
Corn Pop was in there.
I mean, yeah, Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran with a lot of bad dudes. So yeah, they're rumor mills, man. Because what else do they have going on?
Well, I saw that firsthand, how they got messages around and stuff. It was interesting.
Yeah,
it was I have to say, you know, Lucas was never in trouble ever. I mean, again, not a speeding ticket, anything, and it hasn't been since. But it was probably, if you look back on the bright side, the sunny side of life, it was an amazing experience to be for him to have the shock value and experience that side of life. And you know, these guys, there's some bad dudes in there. They're in jail for a reason, right? So 16 or 15 others.
There were 16. Well, it was a 16-man capacity cell. There were people coming in and out, obviously.
So there's transients, but there's some hardliners in there. And here's where the military thing, you know, that the brotherhood that never goes away.
Yeah.
So
Once
Lucas
is
in there, and he's a 138-pound, you know, 5'7" kid. 5'8" kid, whatever, in his heels. When he's wearing his heels. So
I'm gonna give you that bucket.
But they find out that his pop somehow, I don't know how the whole prison network goes.
Well, I
but they
guarantee you somebody leaked the
fact
fact that he walked in with the USMC, and then they looked at your record, and that got translated around the.
So they find out his dad's, you know, a former jarhead, or is still a jarhead.
Who figured that out?
Once a jarhead, always a
because
jarhead.
didn't they took you under their wing?
That wasn't because of that. No, they took me. Well, you're thinking about the one guy I met in there who was a Marine. I was gonna actually mention I had met more good people in jail than I met at Lake Superior State.
Yep.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it.
I got along with the people in jail better than anybody at Lake Superior. Well, not anybody, but like in general.
Sure.
So, not that there weren't bad people in there. There were Latin Kings, Counts, GDs, Crips, Bloods. There were ISIS terrorists there. Never met the ISIS terrorist himself, but in my cell there were.
Is that irony?
Really?
It's a federal holding facility there. So they had two what, 2 or 3
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
terrorists.
And is this a federal? Is this a
Chippewa
There's
County,
2 sides. There's
Chippewa
a
private run?
yeah,
Or is this
Chippewa.
County Correction of a federal holding
Yeah.
facility. Yeah.
Is it private? Do you know if it was private run?
No, it's county.
It's county run.
Yeah.
That's part of a problem. A big problem in our state is the who's running these jails because they make them for profit now.
Oh, it's a huge profit. Well, up there especially. It's
Well, one of the guys too was it's because federal. One guy was extradited from Jamaica. Like they caught him in Florida. Actually,
Did he have dreads?
Child support.
they failed to pay child support.
The one
They
black,
extradite
the
him.
one black guy in our whole jail was for child support. Go figure.
What, you burned down a city? That's all right. You can stay there. Child support guy, you're
Child
going
support,
to do
you
some
owe
hard
us-
time,
you
buddy.
owe us money.
Like, okay, that was the other thing. The people in jail were in there for stupid fucking reasons. There was a guy in there for walking his dog without a leash. There was
This is a guy for shooting a squirrel.
There was a guy. There was a guy who was shooting a squirrel on his property. He lived in the country. There was a squirrel in his property. Somebody shot it, and they brought him in, and they extradited him from Illinois. He was from Chicago area.
What? Shooting a squirrel.
Yeah, I swear to God.
You're bunking with a squirrel shooter?
This up, man.
And this all sounds like bullshit. We checked everybody's papers. Everybody's papers were checked. We didn't let. So the thing is, we didn't let 2 types of people in the cell. We didn't let rats in. We didn't let like pedophiles in, basically, either.
So you guys formed you get in there and you find out who's
Oh yeah, no, you walk in there, we know who you are. In fact, there was one guy who he only lasted about 30 seconds. We knew he was like 7 to 8 feet tall. He's huge, just big freaking like 800-pound guy.
Gorilla, yeah.
Yeah, he was huge. And we knew within like 30 seconds, like this guy, we knew he was a like pedophile. We're like, okay, what are you in? He was like, what are you in for? What are you in for? To his credit, he was like child pornography. And look, okay, hit the buzzer, you're getting out of here. So we had full control of the cell. We basically chose who was going to come in. And who was gonna leave. In fact, I kicked a guy out for starting a fight with one of my buddies who I made friends with, the Marine there, who I gave my rack to. Because having a bottom rack is kind of like a coveted position because
Sure.
you don't want to jump up all the time. He had been wounded in Iraq, so I gave him my rack right away. I just got my bottom rack, but I gave it straight to him.
Nice.
So I became good friends with him, and there was some guy causing problems. I kicked him out of the cell because I didn't want to have a problem in there with anybody. So anyway, good people in there, also very bad people, but we had control of the cell. We had control of the environment.
That's wild.
We formed our own little like honor board, like kind of council. We called it holding court. So we'd hold court on people who we wanted to kick out or just keep things civil. Nothing ever bad happened in the cell except for theft. People stole. I was stolen from multiple times. Well, 2 or 3. And it was on camera, but they never did anything about it.
Of course.
In fact, I was asked about it. Like, hey, did you give so-and-so permission to go on your property too? I'm like, no, the fuck? He's like, well, we have them on camera. I'm like, okay, well, you can do something about it? Maybe. They never
No,
did.
they're not.
Yeah. So, so I was in there with those people.
So you were in for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the general pop.
And the reason he was there, I mean, I just if I could jump in.
They never let me in. Yeah.
So Chippewa County, I mean, it's Chippewa County. They run the place. They wanted initially $250,000 bond to bond them out. $250,000. So it's 25,000 hard cash only, no credit cards, checks, any. So I'm busily getting
$250,000.
Yeah.
For a photograph.
Yeah, and cash only. Then they didn't take check.
But yeah,
Lucas, if you're gonna do anything in the future, burn down a blue city shouting Antifa slogans. You'll be out in 10 minutes with no bond.
But yeah, with probably a $10,000 debit card. So yeah,
they're gonna give you money.
So I'm ready to meet the bond. I mean, I raised the cash.
Yeah.
But the problem was, for every motion we filed to try to get him bonded out, was the prosecutor was demanding that he be tethered out of Chippewa County. And I'm like, look, I don't have any family up here. I don't have any social support. I'm not going to bond my kid out, put him in a hotel room and wait for this to blow over. I said, I let him come home with me. And like I told you earlier,
yeah, tell the audience
so
that.
At that time, I'm still a colonel in the Marine Corps, and I'm getting ready to retire. I work for the federal government. I have a top secret clearance. I'm like, look, if I let him flee under my recognizance,
it's worse for me.
Yeah, I'm going to be in much more trouble than he'll ever be in for a 20-year felony. That's going to look like patty cake to what I'm going to get dragged.
Yeah, you're working on you're building up your pension for all this time served. And
the day I got back, I don't know if I even ever told you this, Luke, but the day I got back from the UP that Monday, I had to walk into my boss's office and explain to him what happened and self-report
because you called off on
because
Friday.
it's part of my
yeah.
clearance measures.
Right.
And so I had to self-flag myself, saying, "Look, my son's just been arrested for terrorism. You know how hard that is?
Wow.
Your boss." He's
that,
like,
that
"What?"
sentence does not come out of the mouth of a Marine colonel very
Holy
easily.
shit. Yeah, he was. I mean, he was shocked. He was supportive. To his credit, he was
Right. Well, you laid it on the, you had to lay it on the table, but you know.
But you had to do it. I had to do it. So that was literally in my record for I don't know how it might still be there, but I mean, I had at least that was part of the process. So it took until we were bound over to circuit. We had the district court judge. As it turns out, there's a lot of stories about him and some other things going on there, but
yeah,
all conjecture. So I'm not going to even go into that. But the circuit court judge took one look at it and said, yeah, this is stupid. Why can't he be bonded out, or I'm sorry, tethered out of your house if you could find a tether guy? And I already knew a tether guy.
Didn't he have jurisdiction to lower the bond or anything like that? I mean, because that's just a recommendation from the prosecutor.
It's a recommendation, and like Lucas had alluded to earlier, probably over dinner, at some point it got reduced to 200,000. We don't know how. No one could ever find a paper trail.
50K.
Yeah, so
lost to 5 somewhere.
One of the county clerk must, one of the court clerks might have dropped to 5. Something happened, but it ended up at 200,000. So I basically pointed up $20,000 in $100 bills, which is incredibly small.
It's surprising.
I envisioned this briefcase full of cash, but it was actually a very small pile. But
$1 million is actually less than like a football.
Yes. And it's crazy.
We'll put that in the dodgeball.
Yeah.
The dodgeball when he
like a little clear
when he opens up the dodgeball and he's like, "We're gonna give this to you if you just throw the match." And you open it up and you're like, there's just little bills.
Like a little tiny thing. It doesn't look like I'm like, wow. But I still had to carry it up there.
Yeah.
But the thing was once I got him tethered out of my house, we thought it was going to be a quicker process. And as it turned out, I was paying for the tether. You pay, I don't know.
You pay for everything.
You pay for the tether.
If you got a drug test, if you got a tether, if you got any of that, you got to pay for all of it.
So the provisions of his release were rather withering.
Should we go to all that, or are we going to talk about the rest of the jail stuff?
Okay, why don't we do that, Lucas? Just keep me on track
here. Well, no, let's lead up to dealing with the jail.
I want to talk about the public defender too, because I never really got to where he got to the point where we got rid of her ass.
Okay.
But also about the jurisdiction thing. They don't care about the jurisdiction, because I always argue too that this shouldn't even have been in Chippewa County's jurisdiction. I posted that photograph in Oakland County. So that was always a contention in the case too.
Right.
We were always debating whether we were going to take it there or not. What we had determined though that Oakland County's jury pool would have been much worse for me than Chippewa County, so we never bothered taking it to that point. So anyway,
yeah, that makes sense.
But I was trying to get out, so we were trying to do bond motions, and obviously, that was my main priority. So I talked to my public defender about that, and it was hard to get a hold of her. But that's what I discussed with her, and she was really dead set on getting this whole psych evaluation thing going through. And I don't think she thought it was crazy, but she wanted to just do it to waste time or whatever, just so
She's a public defender. She wants to put in the least amount of time and get her paycheck and walk away.
So anyway, I asked her, I said, "We're gonna get a bond motion, right?" She's like, "Yes, tomorrow." And I'm like, "Okay." So I finally get in there, and I get into the court hearing, and I'm like, "Okay." I get up to the table. So we're doing the bond motion, right? She's like, "No, we're doing the psych eval." And I'm like, "What do you mean we're doing the psych eval?" She's like, "I'm sorry, but it's not your decision at this point." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "It was my decision in the end." And I'm like, "All right, this is bullshit." So she's like, "I would like to proceed with the psych eval motion to the judge." And the judge is like, "Okay, proceed." And basically she gets up there and she makes a case that this is my public defender saying this. She said that Mr. Gerhard is a danger to himself and others, and he is not he's not psychologically stable. He needs to be evaluated. She said that there was a claim by the Oakland County. She called the Oakland County Police Department. It's actually a sheriff's office. But she said that the Oakland County. Is my mic cutting out?
No, you're fine.
Okay. She said that the Oakland County Police Department said that he is. What did she say?
There's an anonymous tip.
Yeah, no. It wasn't. There was an anonymous tip given by his ex-girlfriend, but she attributed it to the sheriff's office. She said this anonymous tip was actually said by the sheriff's office. She said that it was that he has psychopathic tendencies and is a danger of a school shooting threat.
Yeah.
That's what she said about me, my public defender. There's an
way to have a good advocate.
There's an Al Pacino movie where he's like a lawyer or something, and he's like, my client is fucking guilty. That's like pretty much what she said. And it's like,
is that Ascent of a Woman?
Might have been, yeah.
It was a different one.
Might have been. But yeah, so that's what she said. And I'm like, I walked out. I didn't say anything. I was too shocked. I was like, what the fuck? So we fired her after that. But yeah, she basically got up there and declared me guilty. And
you were working on trying to find somebody this whole time.
After I witnessed that, because I was up there for every single event, and
you could have fired her mid-sentence.
Actually, what's that?
I was gonna say the whole time I was arguing. I was pissed. I had a public defender in the first place. I was begging you for an attorney. I'm like, can I please get a lawyer?
My thoughts were, this is gonna everybody I consulted with downstate. I know a lot of attorneys, and they're like, look, this is ridiculous. There's no way any judge is gonna bind this over and charge. This charge is gonna be dismissed. So I really wasn't. I was concerned because my son's in jail.
Right.
But I wasn't concerned that it was going to carry forward. And I really was quite honestly thinking the sanity is going to prevail in this case, and I'm going to be taking him home. And that didn't happen.
And it just kept going.
There were exigent circumstances too.
Pardon?
They said there were exigent circumstances too. I was under threat of my life in that jail, not because of the other inmates. There was one potential fight in there that almost happened. It didn't, but they had almost killed me in there multiple times, based off my diabetes.
Oh, that's right. I heard about
refusing to give your medication.
Yes.
I heard about this.
So the way diabetes works is obviously you take insulin per carbohydrates, basically, and that's how I do it at least. And I have a prescription. I see an endocrinologist. I am supposed to take a certain amount of insulin for a certain amount of carbs. Well, in Chippewa County Correctional Facility, they I ended up talking to the nurse there, and I had asked her like, hey, we need to follow my script. And she's like, no. We do a flat rate for diabetics here. And I'm like, that was her term. She said flat rate so in other words, every diabetic in that facility is given the same amount of insulin from per dosage, basically, which is screwed up. It's gonna get somebody killed. I'm surprised it hasn't. It probably has. It almost killed me. The way it worked was if my blood sugar was under 150, which is my target range, I didn't get any insulin for a meal. So like if I woke up in the morning, my blood sugar was 100, they wouldn't give me any insulin. Then they'd give me my meal, which of course I'm going to eat because I'm starving. And of course it was high in carbohydrates because that's what they give you there. And so then all of a sudden I eat all this food and my blood sugar shoots up to like 400. And then they're like, they test it for lunch. Like, holy shit, Gerhard, you get into the cookies or something? I'm like, well, you fucking gave me a meal with no insulin, you dumbass. What do you think was going to happen, right? So then once when I did get the insulin, they gave me double the amount I'm supposed to have. And again, I can't have
a bunch of fucking
so
idiots.
in other words, they controlled everything I ate. And, well, not everything. I had commissary, but eventually I didn't because they took that away from me. They controlled almost everything I ate and everything I took for insulin. And then at a certain point, I don't know when this happened, probably 2 months, 3 months in, maybe close to like near the end, maybe 3/4 in, they put me on medical disciplinary action where they threw me in the hole for 5 days because my blood sugar wasn't controlled. I'm like, so in other words, they basically had 100% control of it and then punished me for not being able to control it themselves, even though I told them like, hey, you're about to kill me. So my blood sugar would spike at night. I would like, when you go low, that's when you're in coma area. Like that's dangerous. Right. So I had like smuggled in candy bars and stuff, and I was keeping myself alive by basically eating all this food that they had not given me. I had to pay for it through the commissary. So I had been doing that, and it was a balancing act consistently through the whole time. On top of worrying about the fact I've been charged with a 20-year felony. About to lose my, and I knew I wasn't guilty, but also, I mean, the fact that I wanted to be a cop and everything like that too.
Yeah, the felony on your record, you're that's done.
I would have been done.
So what would happen is so he had 1 day of visitation available. And I think
can I finish the whole story?
120 was like up to 3. No, it was 2.
Can I finish the whole story really quick?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying they threw me in the hole for 5 days, and basically that was a room the size of maybe as long as this table, and
This table's 12 foot.
okay, maybe about the size of this table, and maybe a foot wider, maybe maybe half a foot wider, about that.
So about 5 by 12.
Yeah, and it was nobody in there. It was just, I mean, it was just a hole. It was dark, cold, and I had a freaking bed. I hated it. I love general population so much more. But they threw me in for 5 days, and again, the whole running theme is you don't know how long you're going to be in there. So when I was thrown into the hole, I didn't know how long I was going to be in there.
Yeah.
And that was the worst part. Like I thought I thought I was going to be, you can't leave either. Like in general population, you can go to the day room or something. You can't leave. So
isolation is one of the true forms of cruel and unusual punishment they inflict upon people without a second thought.
Yeah.
Isolating somebody from other human interaction is one of the ultimately one of the worst tortures you can do to somebody.
And I didn't even do anything. All I did was what they gave me, you know? So it's like, it would be one thing if I'd done something stupid, which, you know, people had done in there and got thrown in the hole for it, but I didn't do anything stupid. So they threw me in there, and I finally got out after 5 days. And I was actually brought in there with somebody else, another diabetic. He basically, and here's a lesson to be learned. He told the guards basically to fuck off. He said, I'm not taking any insulin if you keep me in here. And I wanted to be the good guy. I didn't want this to come back on me in my case, say, oh, look at him. Look at this terrorist. He's being confrontational and stuff like that. So I just listened to what he said. He was let back into general population within like a minute, like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Because he refused.
Because he denied, because he was disobedient. Yeah. And I did what they said, and I spent 5 days in there.
Yep.
So
we could go through, I've got a ton of testimonials of people, when you comply, when you do your best to honor them, you're the one that gets fucked with the most. When you tell them to go fuck off, they realize they can't control you, and they try to get you out of there as much as possible.
Yeah. And I guess, so then I got back from general population. You can explain your visits and stuff.
Okay,
right?
so you just got a few visits, and you're finding out about this. They're abusing him.
Yeah, that's the only way we could find out about it. And, you know, it was a 20-minute, you know, plexiglass screen phone call with him every Saturday.
Because he's a dangerous criminal.
Exactly. So I came up every Saturday, but part of the process, I guess the way this plays into this is I would bring up he uses flex pens of insulin, a specific insulin.
I heard that.
Okay. So I'd literally have little school bag, brown lunch bags. I'd have that with his name on it, you know, and contact info for me and all that stuff he had to put on it. And I'd hand it to the corporal of the guard who take it in the back. And I was assuming they were giving him this insulin. And then he starts telling me, no, they're giving me Humalog, and it's in a vial. They won't let me test anything. They won't even test. And so I'm like, what the hell? So I'm trying to talk to these correctional officers, and I'm like, guys, and they're like, hey man, you can't talk to us. You got to talk to the sheriff's office and the prosecutor. So I'm trying to get a line on this, and then I can't get a straight story or even a callback from any of them. So I tell his endocrinologist, who's this fiery little Indian woman, she's amazing, and she fires off a 3-page letter to the Chippewa County Sheriff saying, you're going to kill my client or my patient, and I am going to come at you with everything I have.
I'm going to sue you to the foundations of your building.
Adhere to my prescription. I'm telling you, as his doctor, his endocrinologist, you need to do this. And I think that fixed it for like a week.
No,
that.
They didn't, because remember when I told you they said the flat rate thing? That's when they told me it. They called me into the office and said, we're not going to follow your prescription. We give you a flat rate here.
But they did start using your flex pens, right?
They started using the flex pens, but as soon as I ran out, they threw. Okay,
tell the story about the.
Yeah. I will. Yeah, one time, the flex pen works like you get a dosage and you use it, right? Well, one time I had like a couple units less than I needed for the dosage, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's not the full dosage, so we're just gonna throw it away."
It was your last pen.
Yeah, it was my last one. So like they threw it away. I needed like, I don't know, like let's just say 10 units, and they had 8 left. So they, instead of giving me like the 8, they just said fuck it and tossed it in the can.
So we got nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he ends up going into like, you know, 450.
This is what you get for state and federal bureaucracies that are just
terrible.
And the people that are taking the paychecks and turning a blind eye to any moral compass that they may have, any sense of humanity. That's the things that start to really piss me off, is that that you've got cops that are complicit. You've got a prosecutor that's trying to make your name. You've got a public defender that's a piece of shit that just wants that paycheck and doesn't really care about the welfare of the client she's entrusted to. They're swearing. All these people are swearing oaths.
Well, a lot of this
to
is
honor,
and I think a lot of this drills down to just this. And I work for the government, so I can talk about this very eloquently. It's this apathetic drone mentality. Like I follow the rules.
Yep.
There's not really any empathy, compassion, thought that goes into following those rules. They just do their job. I stamp this piece of paper and put it over here, and I stamp this one, put it over.
Yeah.
That's the mentality you get a lot. And it's, for the nurses or so-called nurses, I don't know if they're real nurses or not in the jail. I'm sure that was the same thing. Oh, it's only 8 units. They can't process the fact that, well, 8's better than nothing, but it's not 10. And I'm told not to do anything if there's not 10. So,
and it comes down to that simple scripture of the love of money is the root of all evil. And when people read that scripture, they see the love of money and they think it's the billionaires. No, it's all of those people that do a job with a lack of empathy and honor for that paycheck.
It's how they control a good portion of the government. The government populace, the government employees, and I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but
it's important to point out.
It's important because there is a control factor there. The government is a giant welfare program, and the federal employees, and I'm one of them again, but I happen to give a shit because I work for the Marine Corps, so I have vested interest in getting a good, solid, lethal, product out to the Marines that will do them well, because I've been on the opposite end of that, right? So, but a majority of those people are there for the paycheck. They're taking the handouts like someone in a bread line. If you can date back, who was the emperor with the loaves and the feed them? Who was it?
Well, there was always a welfare program.
Was it Commodus?
Well,
but they did the bread and circus.
Bread and circus thing. Bread and circus. Keep them entertained, give them something, a few handouts, and they'll be content. And that's exactly what's going on. So you get these jail employees. I'm not generalizing every single jail employees. I'm sure there's quality people out there, but
they get jaded and they want that paycheck.
Exactly. So that's what almost killed my son was that type of mentality.
So you're in for 3 months before they finally get you to a true bond hearing.
Yeah.
They reduce it down. Your dad brings 20 grand. In cash.
Yeah. Now I want to mention the judges' names too, because there was the district judge was Judge Bluebaugh, and Judge James P. Lambros was the circuit judge.
Okay.
And he, to his credit, again, not like he was like on my side per se, but he did a lot better of a job than Bluebaugh did as a district judge. So he was the one who let me out. Lambros let me out. Again, he was very he listened to a lot of what the prosecutor said, but not in the case of the hearing, because in the hearing, if you remember, Dad, we had hired, after the public defender, we hired a guy named Mark Dobiage out of, I think is he out of Petoskey?
He's right in Sault Ste. Marie.
Oh, he's right in Sault Ste. Marie. Okay.
That's right. That's right. When I walked out of his arraignment, I knew at that point the kickoff was happening. Now there's a ball in play. So I just happened to have a friend who knew a friend who knew a friend who said, this guy is like the big fish in a little pond.
And I had heard his name too in jail.
Okay.
But so we hired him, and
he's a bulldog, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Dobiage is
his personality. Like I like in court. In court, he went out on these savages. But anyway, and he where was I going with this? That's right. So we were trying to get out, and
getting to your bond.
We got to the bond, and the prosecutor tried. This was during the bond hearing. She tried in the middle of this bond hearing to be like, well, you need to basically plead guilty to all these charges immediately, or we're going to stack an additional felony firearms charge onto this based off the picture. And that was during this hearing, right? Yeah. And I remember Dobiage was like, what the fuck? Like the judge, I don't think they even said anything about it. Like the judge and my defender, my attorney were basically, they completely dismissed her comments because it was so ridiculously stupid that it didn't even need to be addressed.
Wow.
So she threatened me with more charges unless I pled guilty immediately.
That's what they do.
So, and that's why the preliminary inquiry is such a waste of time. I mean, you know, they didn't establish any base of fact. In fact, they put the two girls on the stand, who both said, we really didn't see this as a threat. I thought it was kind of weird.
No. Well, what happened was she started crying, fake crying probably, or real crying. I don't know. She's a fucking snowflake. Who knows? So the bailiff brought her a box of tissues and stuff. She's like, oh, poor me, my feelings. And it was absolutely fucking pathetic. It took everything it had in me not to laugh my ass off at her. It was so funny to me. I didn't know if it was real or not. I just thought it was funny because she looked so pathetic up there. And she said, oh, like, I never seen anything like that before. It was scary. But she was lying through her teeth. She knows what guns are.
There's an armory on the campus.
And this is the one with the shotgun.
This is the one that eventually poses the shotgun.
She doesn't know what a shot. She doesn't know what a gun is.
The she-beast.
So she, but again, and she was the one. I had blocked her. So in other words, I kept arguing this. She not only was she not on my friends list, I went out of my way to specifically prohibit her from seeing anything I posted.
So her acting like she had to go out of her way to find your stuff.
Sure. And later on, John Riley, our representative, said something I'll never forget. He's like, some people have to go in the take offense. Like that, the term "take offense" is literal.
You have to go and grab it. And take it.
She literally went out of her way to take it. She took the offense.
That was actually Tom Lambert.
That was Tom Lambert. I thought it was, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a good line.
Yeah, it's really
good
line.
Great line.
So, and then the other witness who was allowed to see my post, but what she stupidly said was, I mean, the truth was that she said, I didn't, when asked if it was a threat, she's like, I didn't necessarily think it was like a threat or something. And this is how they talked. They were like and this and that. So they said
very articulate
and
people.
It's all in the transcript. That's how it's written out.
Like AOC.
Literally.
Yeah.
But like
who almost died 12 times.
Like, yeah.
She's an idiot.
So, in the Capitol.
She said, I never necessarily saw it as a threat. I just thought it was more or less inappropriate. That was her statement.
Yeah.
So in other words, their only justifiable witness had just basically said that she didn't see it as a threat. The only person in the whole case that said she thought it was a threat was the only person I specifically said couldn't see the picture.
Yeah. So how can there be a true threat if the person that's being threatened was excluded from ever seeing that so-called threat? It was crazy.
Yeah.
So that was the preliminary inquiry was a shit show. That was when the whole magazine ammunition thing got brought up.
And my lawyer called him what do you call him? He called him like pussy or something. He's like, have you heard of like a
Dobiage?
Yeah, he called him he was calling
like
him
a wimp. He's like a wimp, pussy. You ever heard those terms? And everybody's like, what the heck?
Yeah,
where's he going with this?
he was basically insulting the witnesses. It was really funny, but
Dobiage is a very unorthodox. He's like an old school, like my cousin Vinny kind of lawyer.
Yeah,
nice.
He's the two youths in question, Your Honor.
Absolutely. He's phenomenal.
The two what?
He's probably one of the best attorneys I ever encountered. The problem with Mark is he is literally the big fish in a little pond up there. So everybody wants a piece of him. We could never, I'd call him half the time he's in Marquette, the prison there. It was just never available. I'm like, man, this isn't working. My kid, his whole life is on.
So when he's there, he's a badass, but
he's
getting him there.
Yeah, but he was just stretched like, there's only one of him and there's like 50 people begging for his attention every one time. So that's when we had to start looking somewhere else.
Wow. Yeah. Let's do this, guys. I want to focus on a couple things before we wrap up tonight. I'm going to have you back. And we're going to flesh out more of this. Lucas, you're getting speaking opportunities on a regular basis now to share your story. Just recently, you were at an event put on by the Grand New Party, along with William, the Null brothers, and I believe Eric was also there.
Melfer,
yep.
And
so
was that the one that was protested by that?
No. This was the other one over.
Oh, the other one. Okay.
But you're getting those speaking opportunities. Obviously, you're doing a number of interviews. Give me quickly. You're now at a different school.
Yes.
You're still pursuing your. Have you changed your?
Please tell me you're still going to go into law enforcement.
What are you looking at?
I am going in back. Yeah, I'm going back into law enforcement.
Hey,
to the
clean that shit up.
Well, that's interesting you say that because a lot of people don't want me to go in there. Every time I talk to somebody about this, they're like, "Why do you still want to be a cop?" Like I talk to a lot of obviously libertarian types who typically don't like law enforcement. I understand why they might think that. And people say, well, you can't change the system from the inside. You have to do it from the outside. I don't agree. I think you can change from the inside.
You gotta have
I want to be the fucking chief of police. I want to be the very tip top and then change it. I mean, the thing, it changed somehow.
And then run for president.
You know,
What's
yeah,
that
then
date
I'll be
again?
president, right?
We'll look at that date.
Well, it's funny because almost every attorney that Lucas has had contact with has come to me and said he should be an attorney. And every politician that he's had contact with said he needs to get into politics because we need guys like him.
Right.
Every single one. And you had proof positive of that at the Grand New Party.
Yeah, they want me to run for representative and stuff at that event. I was like,
very conservative representative, one of the leaders in the legislature came with Lucas and said, "You consider running for representative? Who's your representative?" And Lucas told him, and he's like, "We got to get you." And he contacted him the next day. He was following up. So
yeah. Bottom line is take that time to meditate, talk to the Lord, and say, "All right, what am I supposed to do?" Because if you don't, there's a lot of things you can have an aptitude for that your gifts and talents can be plugged into, but finding out what your true center is, your true base, and what your true calling is the only place you're going to be fulfilled. And you're so strong-willed and so self-assured, confident.
Well, I have a lot of ambition.
Yeah, and that if you don't find that spot and pursue it, no matter what it is, you're going to put yourself in a place where you're not fulfilled and not happy, and then that becomes self-destructive. So yeah, you've got all those. You could be a lawyer, you could be a politician, but what's your heart ambition? And that's something you've got to work out. So future aspirations, you're working on that. You're still pursuing this. You're at a different college. We won't cast aspersions either one way or the other on where you're at, but I'm assuming
does it matter? I don't think it matters, does it?
But it's a better campus life. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. I'm in a fraternity and everything. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask you guys as we're wrapping up tonight.
Skulls and bones. That's how the presidents got there.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, you know what? It's coincidentally, we'll give a shout out to Delta Tau Delta, which is my old.
I don't know if we should do that.
Okay, we'll cut that out. He's just a pledge right now.
It's an apolitical thing. I don't think we should. I don't like bringing politics into the fraternity.
I'm pleading
Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones.
Okay, so he's pledged the Skull and Bones Society.
Yeah. Yeah,
we meet at the
Bohemian Grove under the owl statue.
That'll get the conspiracies going. You'll be getting hate mail for years.
Oh, we've already got that. We directed to Larry. Larry gets the hate mail.
No, speaking of Alex Jones, who blew that all way, I played the ad at the break about that game. We'll have to get your remote in and play that.
Lucas is going to come and do that with us.
Some gaming stuff, yeah.
I want to touch on real quick before we finish up tonight, and I definitely want to have you guys back because there's far more to that story. I've already made the offer to you, Mark, to come back to our Veterans Long Table when we start to launch that.
I'd be honored to do that.
That would be a great time. But I want to deal with this. You went through a divorce. You said 2012.
Yes.
And so you really got tight. You and your sons. You guys. Form this bond. You butt heads, men. The young bulls fighting with the old bull. But ultimately, how much did this incident, your 3 months in jail, and then your 3 years on a tether? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Before it finally it was dismissed, right?
Yeah, it was dismissed after 4 years. Yeah,
because you guys just kept standing your ground. You did, of course, Dad's standing with you, but you're fighting this, and you're saying, "No, we're not taking a deal. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. This is fucking wrong. It should have never been here in the first place." And you finally, it gets to the point where it transpires, and we could go over that in a whole nother show. But it transpires to the place where it's finally like somebody comes to a point of reason and says, "Yeah, this is stupid. It needs to fucking go away." Whether the district attorney or the prosecuting attorney relents, or the judge finally says, "Enough, you put this family through this."
What's the highlight of that? How did that briefly go down?
Give me just a minute on that, and then I want to talk about family as we're ending up the show. I want to, and this is a traumatic experience for your whole family.
Yeah. But who made the decision to?
Who made that final decision to kick it out?
Well, to drop the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened was the trial was going to go forth. We were prepping, like I had been going through trial prep, literally being trained how to speak on the stand because I was going to take the stand in my trial.
Okay.
And the trial was going to cost $40,000, and the jury pool was full of judges and cops and other people. Not that I don't like judges or cops, but
it's tainted.
It's tainted. Their perspectives are more akin to let's convict as opposed to let's think about it.
Right.
So we were, iffy on that, but I was always confident I was going to win. But the thing was, it was the media requests that really did it. So we had been in the media, Nick Rekieta and other media outlets had basically been following the case for a long period.
Yeah.
And they had basically requested to stream the trial. And how many live stream requests do you think he got?
Well, so this judge he denied any motion we had, and a previous attorney he wanted to actually live stream it himself for a motion hearing, and the judge shut that down. So we thought there's probably not going to be much chance of this. I actually talked to Shane Trejo first.
That's right.
Okay. And I said, Shane, here's the deal, and Nick Rekieta was the first one to ask me. He wanted to live stream it, and Nick had more people watching the Rittenhouse trial on his show than Court TV did.
Court TV,
it was pissing them off. They were shutting them down.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
So Nick's like, I want to live stream. I want them to show their ass to millions of people. I'm like,
yep,
right on.
Nick's
brother.
a bulldog.
Yeah. So I called Shane. I'm like, how do we do this? And he says, it's a 1-page deal. He walked me through it. And so it started to give me an idea, like, if we have more than one or two of these, this could be hard for the judge to say no if he's getting a
getting barraged.
So I had contacts, with Jim Hoft, Patty McMurray, the Washington Free Beacon. I mean, everywhere.
Yeah.
Even some liberal publications that were still covering the story because it was a public interest for them. So I fanned it out. I said, you know what? I'll shotgun this out. If we get a few back, it'll just make us better. Well,
there's your next shot for those with puns intended.
Yeah, exactly. No shooting
out.
Another shot.
Short story long. They all came back and then some. There was publications were giving them to their buddies, and we got requests from Portugal, Japan, from Brazil.
We had people from South Korea wanting to know what was going on here. Yeah,
it was crazy. So the judge walked in his office on a Thursday before the trial was due to start on a Monday, the 6th of July. Okay, right up to July 4th weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He walks in his office on Thursday and he's got like a phone book sized file of requests.
Wow.
And just then, Matt, the attorney called me. He says, "Hey, this is really unorthodox. The judge just called me in the chambers. It's like 10 in the morning on a Thursday." He says, "He called me in the chambers, the prosecutor. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's good or bad." I'm like, "I might know what this is all about." And he's like, "Oh, that would be great." And it was. So that's when we found out all the scuttlebutt. The prosecutor, that's when they came out and said, "Hey, the judges," after the judge says, "Well, how many people are we talking about here?" And he says, "Well, Rekieta's got like, a couple 100,000 people watch him every time." So
every time,
at least
more,
that,
more
and to multiply
that.
that, and the judge like kind of turns like the color of Lucas in that picture, and
the vampire version.
He swivels over to the prosecutor, says, "What kind of deal are you giving this kid?" And the prosecutor's like, "Judge, the school's not going to allow that." And the judge says, "Look, last time I checked, you're working for the people of the state of Michigan, not Lake Superior State University."
Yeah.
And he says, "We're making this kid a deal." And I won't go into specifics because I wasn't there. I can only paraphrase to say the judge, even though judges don't do this, said, "We're going to make this deal." And the prosecutor, knowing that he's the only judge they see in Sault Ste. Marie Circuit Court, 51st Circuit Court, basically agreed to HIDA, which we had asked for from the very beginning.
Hold on, stop. We do this. I don't think cut or anything, but every time we go into an interview and we mention HIDA, I think HIDA's fucking useless to mention because the point of HIDA is to erase it. So I don't like mentioning it. The point of it is to say that it was dropped.
Well, I understand that too, but my son benefited from that because they raised the age limit
to 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time he got charged.
I just hate mentioning it because it's like it's the point of it is to say that there was just basically they did just lose. I mean, essentially that's is what happened, but it's also
it's a way for them to save face.
Yeah, and I don't want them to save face. Like it just.
I get that. I get that 100%. And I think this part of the discussion is good because you're saying, look, you guys were wrong from day one. You're hiding behind this statute to wiggle your way out of this, but you were a bunch of fucking assholes to me. Have you guys? So that's really the culmination of it.
Not only that, but there's an ignorant populace out there have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
So
what's HIDA?
Basically, what the rule is, it says we're going to dismiss this case with prejudice. It can never come back. We're going to seal it, and we're going to expunge everything else out there. So basically, it never happened. Okay, that's the way it is. However, no matter what happens, even if you get a case expunged, from my knowledge, there is still a record of a felony arrest that the military, any college, and any police department, any law enforcement agency can see. So regardless of this fact that Lucas did nothing wrong,
right,
and it was eventually, after 4 years was
you're pissed because
finally,
you didn't
they
get a full
acknowledged that.
exoneration and a public statement saying,
well, yeah, I was gunning for a trial the whole. I was ready to face the cannon in front of my face, but it was only when this the judge wanted to drop the case at the end that I decided.
And even still, Lucas did not. He was adamant. He wanted to go to trial, and he wanted to throw it back at him.
And say, you fuckers mess with me.
Direct fire,
I typed in Lucas Gerhard case, and it comes up immediately.
Yeah, it comes up immediately, and there's no exoneration.
Yeah, we've talked to Shane. In fact, I chatted with him a little bit. Just we need to get some closure on this story.
Is there any because of the agreement? Is there? I don't want to speculate, but there are. I mean, it's hard when it's a state or a county. In civil, there are some states that have automatic slapbacks. You came after me and you were wrong and you were proven wrong, or the judge said it, and so it's automatic. You got to cover my. You guys are out.
Well,
Michigan doesn't work like that. You have to go through it.
Quickly realize that lawsuits are a fucking lost cause unless they're pro bono. I would have to come up with $500,000 to sue anybody over anything that would cover any. Not that I expended anything personally. We had $100,000 in donations from American Patriots. You shelled out $20,000 for the bond plus everything that came with the tether and all that.
Shelled out a lot more than that. But
for the bond, I said for the bond plus everything else after that.
You got that back at the end?
No, not all of it.
No. They take
2%
or 20%. I can't remember what. They took a couple grand off the 20 for
just a bunch of fucking scams.
Oh, it's a wild thing. Yeah. So I know a good way we're going to close this up, but I'll just say that Lucas, you asked the question about how this affected.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to is the family dynamic.
Seeing him grow, the resiliency that he showed during this whole saga was impressive, to say the least. Now, granted, we were going through the whole Wuhan flu hysteria and everybody was on lockdown anyway, right?
Right.
But, which is, in a way fortuitous for a couple of years, but he was going through this.
I was already in it for 8 months when that happened.
And still.
That's funny, yeah.
And with the whole, the mental and emotional trauma of, I have to keep reminding myself, number one, he's dealing with diabetes. And then that was all over the place because it's stress, stress affected. And he's dealing with thinking, am I going to ever see a life? Because you don't know. Even going to trial, our chances of winning a trial were probably pretty damn good. In fact, we know they were, but there's still that wild dice.
Still a variable because of the liberal courts that we have and the leftist judges.
Well, the fact that I was even charged in the first place was a fact.
Up until the very last day, in July, we were assuming we were prepping to go to trial. We'd spent 2 weeks. He spent 2-3 weeks up in Saginaw, going through mock trials, preparing to take. He wanted to take the stand. They wanted him to take the stand.
Did you have to get permission? Was he on house arrest?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I had to get
permission to.
I had to call and
go
everything.
in the backyard.
Yeah, with the tether, the situation, and there's a whole host of ridiculously withering stipulations.
We'll go
one
on
of
that
them
next
was
time, I think.
Yeah, he could not leave the house unless he had a legal or medical appointment, which are rare. So I had to call it in. We drive up to Saginaw. They track it, and we drive right back.
So are you shut down from being able to work, or?
Yeah, I. This is something I think we should definitely go into the next time because I couldn't do anything.
No work, no school, no church.
I couldn't leave.
Nothing.
I couldn't leave the house. If I left one time my garbage can, you put the garbage can across the street, and the neighbors because the truck we missed the truck. I couldn't go across the street and grab it
because of the tether
zone. It was like the tether.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, I couldn't do that for 4 years, from 2019 to 2023. Basically.
No computer, no smartphone. That's
I had
easy for a 20-something.
Yeah, no contact. I could. They said I couldn't use technology without the internet.
I begged them this. I said, look, at least let me get a metered computer in my home where he can get online and do courses or do online church, whatever he wants.
So what are you doing? Reading books?
I watched a movie. My friends came over. Basically just shit talked the government the whole time and.
He did read books, which was encouraging for me too.
Did I? I don't.
Yeah, she did.
I did.
Did you at least
one positive thing?
I read a lot of books in jail.
Did you at least have a console with some?
You couldn't. No, that was. I couldn't use. I said I couldn't use technology without the internet.
Yeah.
Not saying that I wasn't. No, let me put it like this. I wasn't. I was told I was not allowed to do those things.
Yeah, and I mean, I was.
You said twice without the internet. Don't you mean you couldn't
no,
use technology
with
that
or without
had internet connection?
No, with or without. the
I even
internet.
asked like streaming
or
services
without.
like Netflix, Amazon.
Really?
Yeah, like no, I couldn't. I was not allowed. I was prohibited from using any sort of
That had
technological device.
Wi-Fi or internet
capabilities.
Yeah. And you know what it was?
A fucking GameCube.
Yeah,
Play some 007?
I have a GameCube, and yeah, I was technically prohibited from. I just say I didn't use
I heard
it, but
technically.
I was prohibited from using that.
What they were doing was just putting the thumb screws down. I mean,
Sure.
like even Rekieta had a show. He had a big round table with a bunch of guys, remember? And they were saying, geez, if I was a prosecutor, I'd give him 3 cell phones and computers. I'd want him to be out there and incriminating himself repeatedly.
Exactly.
And I probably would have. I probably
Possibly,
would have.
yeah.
Well, no,
worked out
I
well.
would have
And
actually.
it worked out well.
Because you'd have been ranting and raving and telling
'Cause I
them
would
to
have
fuck
pissed off. Yeah, I would
Yeah,
have
sure.
super pissed.
So were you able to do interviews during this time?
No, not me. He was.
I had to get on and do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once everything's over, that's when you were able to come in and do the interviews.
Yeah, I broke silence on. Actually,
Yeah.
I was on Joe Neerman's show because I mean, when I got on, I felt bad. It was like it was hard to schedule because I mean, no offense, but like I had other people advocating for me and giving time commitments to shit I wasn't committing to. I have a schedule too. I can't just commit to something that, I guess because maybe I was under house arrest for so long that you were so used to like saying, oh, he'll do this at this time. But I had just gotten out and I wanted to do my own
You're
stuff.
like, I need to breathe.
Yeah.
Leave me
So like I was basically being told to do things at certain times. I'm like, I didn't make these plans.
Well, you're going to push back on that because you've just been controlled for all that time.
Which he did.
And it just worked out with Joe Neerman doing the first one, and then after that was Rekieta. And actually, I think I pissed off the Gateway Pundit because they wanted to have the exclusive first, which I was gonna give to them, but the timing didn't work out. And then eventually, for some reason, they just didn't want to do the interview because they didn't get the first shot, which kind of tells me where their priorities are.
And we had you here for the telethon.
Yeah, which was
that was way after.
Yeah, this is we're talking like right at the time he was released. And I talked to Patty, and she was gracious about it.
That was June 23.
Yeah, and I had
July
23. I had set up and I was kind of his press secretary. I set up an interview, and it was a big deal. I mean, they're gonna break it, and then Joe Neerman on the back channels, I didn't even know about it. I don't think at the time. He asked Lucas if he'd do an interview. Lucas was like, sure. So he went in and did an interview with Joe, who's a great American. Love him.
Yeah.
These are up there with Rekieta in terms of great patriots. But so that was and at the time the Gateway Pundit's like, well, we got they got the world is our oyster. So this was going to be an exclusive. Now it's not. I totally get it.
I don't get it. I mean, their fucking priorities should have been straight.
Well,
I mean,
Lucas, you got to look.
I'm a principled person. I believe in moral values and principle. And if they're really in the right intention place, they're going to break the story because this is an important topic and it needs to be discussed.
Well, I think they believe that, but it's just
if they did, they would have done it anyways, but they didn't. So I don't care. Like I said, I'm jaded.
Let me end this.
I would have never picked that up, Lucas. That you're.
Yeah, he's resilient. He is resilient.
Right.
No patience anymore.
Gentlemen, this has been a great interview. We've got to do a part 2 again. I mean, you've been here already before, but having the two
actually,
of you sit down
I wanted to ask about that. I had the slot. This is the second time you've been here for a show. Third time you've been here physically. The second time with the original interview, having that powerlessness of not being able to speak out for so long and being muzzled, and then us having a show with you where we sat you on a couch for almost an hour and didn't let you speak until because we had technical issues.
Right.
How did you handle that? And I'm glad that you came back.
Well, I was understanding because I appreciate every second. Anybody who gives me the opportunity, especially after all this, because like I just said about the whole exclusive thing.
Yeah.
I know your guys's your principles are in the right place. Like you don't care about the exclusive. Like I've told this story before. You're telling it because it's important and it matters and people need to hear it still.
Well, we've got another audience that may not be tuning in to somebody.
Exactly.
Nobody's listening. My audience may not be listening to Rekieta. They may have heard for the first time who Rekieta is because my audience is a different group of people.
Exactly. And that's why, like the Gateway Pundit, I'm like, well, they could have shared this story with all of them. Then they could have known better and learned from the experience themselves.
Exactly.
So, I was totally understanding. And I know Eric and and Michael and William
Right.
Knoll, they had never told their story. It was basically their first, premiere. So I understood why they, had the spotlight, and I was perfectly fine.
Okay.
So yeah, it was
Thank
fun.
you.
Well, and it was kind of Shane was trying to get everybody in, and I'm like,
Yeah, it was a packed show, and we
It was
like to
packed.
do a little bit more intimate.
yeah, I like to do
one-on-ones.
at least a one-on-one or somebody to bounce off of and really dial in, because I want to hear that humanity and that stuff. So you guys you're good today. You're pushing forward today as far as, I mean, you're spicy. You got some animosity towards the shit that happened, but
It's tackling for you.
I wouldn't say I'm good. I mean, I don't know how optics wise how much I should go into, but if next time I come back, we discuss the actual bond. I can't call it house arrest because house arrest is actually a sentence, and I was never sentenced to anything. I was held without trial. So
that stands.
So yeah, if that's
let's do that the next time you come back, and let's schedule that real soon, because I want to have people anticipate a good follow-up for that. I'll give you guys my paper to sign.
All right.
Give me a final thought first, Dad, and then I'll give it to you, Lucas. Get your final thought. Make sure you get different colors.
Yeah, I'll take the green one.
And then, so go ahead, Mark. What's final thought just for this portion of the first interview?
Final thought would be, I've had a whole new, my admiration for Lucas has always been there. Obviously, I love him. He's my son. But again, his resiliency and the way he's been stoic in his composure and keeping the faith on this, has been impressive to me. And I've actually learned from it. I've learned some patience. I've learned some good lessons from him. And I think that's, as a father, what more can you ask? Is to learn things from your children.
He's got an overhead on you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm messing everything up here.
No,
Okay,
you're good. You're good.
I'm gonna be the purple guy. I'll even put a little Colonel USMC retired under there for
We
you.
sign these things every time.
Love it.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, that's awesome. We do learn from our kids, and it's a reflection back to us that our kids, we look at it and go, did they glean that from me? Either way, that is encouraging and powerful. Lucas, final thoughts. This has been a great time with you, sharing your heart. I know you're still a bit spicy, and rightly so about that. And we'll do another interview. We'll flesh that out. But give me a final thought on what your hope is. What's your path forward? What do you think about that?
My path forward, I just want to be a goddamn cop. It's not even like a huge goal. I mean, I'm ambitious. I want to go and I want to advance through the ranks and, hopefully attain a leadership position at some point. Politics, I think I don't want to do it, but I think it's likely at this point.
That's your best politician.
Yeah, it just seems like every time I run into it, it's just people, like you said, that people keep asking me, and I'm like, I definitely don't want to be a lawyer. I know I would not like being a lawyer, but I wouldn't mind being a politician. I just don't want to.
Well, if you ultimately run for sheriff somewhere, you would have to have a political edge to whatever you're doing.
Right, and I think being a sheriff, running for a sheriff, I would love to do that, to be honest. I would love to run a sheriff's office. I think that would be great, and I think I'd have my priorities straight. And as far as the Constitution, because sheriff's office is in the Constitution, so you need a county sheriff, and I think that I would think I would do a good job as long as I knew I deserved it. Like, I wouldn't want to do it now because I don't have enough experience. I would want to take time in the office, I hate when people I almost in a way hate that sheriffs are elected in the first place, because sometimes I feel like they don't even deserve it. I feel like imagine electing a general into the military. The Romans did that for a lot of time, and that a lot of time that didn't work out very well for them. So, but I want experience in the field, and then I want to become a leader in that field.
Well, that's what you hope for, is that your sheriff has that experience in the field and that he's done an honorable job up to that point. And then when he's elected, that the purpose of that election is to let him know that his accountability is solely to the populace, to the people that are electing him, and that puts that sheriff's chief, the sheriff, elected by the people, is the highest law of the land. The FBI,
And
all
there's
these other people.
there are some that are fully Dar Leaf is one of
Darleaf's
those.
phenomenal. Yeah. We've got a
Incredible
great
man.
sheriff here in Livingston County.
The best.
And so there's a number of them out there, and we know across the country, we've got a number of them
Right.
active and retired. And so that's your ambition. But the bottom line, no matter how far you go, we need good men in law enforcement who have actually been on the other side of those malicious, unfounded prosecutions, because they're the ones who are not going to cross those lines.
Right.
And they're going to maintain their moral compass no matter what's going on. And that's, I think, one of the most powerful statements to say, look, I think on that level, without the experience at this point, on that level, that's one of the things you convey to a lot of people. And they say, we can see that in your future, because on that level of being persecuted for nothing gives you such a strong, as your dad said, being so strong in this, is you're saying, I will stand in that role and I will not abuse that power. I will uphold the Constitution. I will uphold the rights of people. I will see the humanity within people. And that's what we need to return in our law enforcement, because it's missing, where they just stamp it and push a paper
Right.
over. And we've got to get back to, I grew up in the era, I know your dad did too, and my parents even more so. If the kids got pulled over and they had alcohol in the car, the cops dumped it out
Or took it home.
and
Rochester cops just put it in their trunk and
made them go.
At least the unopens.
Yeah,
They took the
but they made them
unopens.
go. They said, hey, or they took you home, whatever they had to do.
Mhm.
But it wasn't this whole scam
Mhm.
that they're doing now. And because of the scam, we've got even more lawlessness in a lot of areas, and people falling, guy shooting a squirrel and a bunch of other stupid shit. These people are in there. And I think we've got to get not just a moral compass back in our law enforcement, but a real sense of sanity, and get rid of this lunacy where people are being charged for the stupidest things. You're being charged for being a terrorist, while the vast majority of the latest shootings over the last 3 to 4 years have been these leftist, I don't know what gender I am type of people that are walking in there. And those are the ones that have been visited by the FBI multiple times. And we don't know if they're not, made by the FBI at that point.
Right.
And so there has to come some sanity back in law enforcement. Mark, thank you very much for being here. Look forward to hanging out more with you. Lucas, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everybody out there, like, share, and subscribe. Check this out. Please push this interview, share it with your friends out there. This is a great time. It's not the only one. We'll get to a part 2. We'll do a lot more in the future with these two gentlemen. I'm looking forward to a long table with you.
I'm
and
looking forward
another
to it as well,
interview with
brother.
you. This is great times, and we're going to do some gaming with this.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's play the Alex Jones game.
Dude, we're gonna
I
get
would
you
love
here.
to meet that guy. We would.
I got to say one more thing about Lucas. A lot of parents look at their children and they hope, they wish, they wonder, are they going to find success and happiness?
Yeah.
I don't have that worry with
You
them.
don't wonder.
I don't know.
You think I'm gonna find
There's-
happiness?
There's no doubt
Absolutely.
about it.
No, maybe not.
You will
That's
find
a bit
happiness
odd.
and success.
Happiness.
However you term it, it's going to be yours.
Yeah, you're
So,
gonna get.
and so, Lucas, when do you turn 35?
35, 2034.
2034? Perfect, because that makes the November 2030. Wait, what month?
August.
Oh, that's perfect. You
I think
will
you
be in the
qualify for the primary.
2034.
Yeah.
August is, the primary is actually in.
I don't know if
No,
he'll-
he wouldn't make it March.
I don't know if he'll be running
March.
for the
So-
specifically for the United States of America. It might be the United Republic of some northern area.
Some Northern Confederacy
if-
or something.
Yeah,
like-
if the
So no, you actually might have to wait till 36. So you're going to declare.
it may be a different.
the Midwestern Coalition.
It may be a different constitution at that time, made up of different states.
Might be. Well, I plan to still be alive, so you got my Gerhard vote in 36.
Yeah.
All right, set your
Yeah.
schedules, everybody. I'll be on the
36.
ballot.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight so much. Take us out, Tim. We'll see you later.
Yep, going to the cave.
Hoorah.
All right, thanks guys for tuning in. You know the routine. I'm going to throw up the close here. Oh, I wonder if it's going to play when I push the button.
This is my brain.
Dad, that's an egg.
Yeah, that's an egg.
Honey,
Dude,
that's an egg.
seriously.
That's an egg. It's a metaphor.
It's still an egg. That's an egg.
I would challenge you.
That's an egg.
I know my brain is not actually an egg, okay? It's a metaphor.
Metaphor or not, that's not your brain.
It's just an egg.
Una cerveza para mí. My egg is my brain.
Can I at least have some bacon, maybe some sausage with that egg, though?
Oh, I want some bacon.
I want crepes. Have some bacon and pancakes with that egg.
I'll take it with cheese.
Extra large brown cage-free eggs.
Can I have your brain with hot cakes?
A sausage and a little toast and potato.
That would be great.
Does it have antibiotics?
I don't know, man. I'm not good at this shit.
Well, they got to be able to resist some diseases.
You resist the disease.
Has it got any hormones?
Maybe. It's cage free.
Vegetarian?
Maybe.
Are they vegan?
No, I eat steak.
Never apologize and never explain.
Never apologize.
Never apologize and never explain.